everyone, welcome to the stream. Welcome. Welcome to Roots of Pacha. Yeah, I was one of the beta backers when the game first came out and was still being developed. And this will be the first time I've got to play it since its release. Of course, it just got released today. I'm excited, so join me on an adventure. I hope you like it. I love the music. I love the animals. I also have, by the way, I have Lady Rain and Momo here with me today also. So let me go grab them. They're gonna play with me too. I push all the right buttons.
Okay.
Yay, you're live. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Alright, let's get to the game.
So, Momo, if you go into the, like, quote-unquote store for the Elgato Stream Deck thing, if you just type in CPU under plugins, it's the first one by Elgato. It's a utility thing.
Momo, go to desktop. Forgot to
Check out. Yeah, check out all the buffaloes. Buffaloes!
Stream Deck.
Check out all the
I
buffaloes.
looked for it before, but let's see. So Stream Deck one.
You know, like the little colorful keyboard thing with the plus button. Is your quote-unquote store. You go to plugins and then search CPU.
I did that before. Is it relatively new?
I think so.
I haven't. What the fuck?
And then it's under, when you go to try and add a thing, it's under the custom category of things.
Maybe that's why I didn't find it.
Yeah. Looks like the stampede of Lion King. It kinda does now that you mention it. Kinda does. Alright, let's start. Let's figure out how to invite people to this game.
I'm stupid. I wanted it for
New game. Ooh, multiplayer. What am I gonna call this new game? I don't know, maybe I don't get to.
I have GPU problems.
Oh, yeah, I can't help you with that. But,
it doesn't exist. And I was like, oh,
jeez. There's my cave ID, guys.
I'm awake, I promise.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna, like... Yes. I'm gonna start, like, figuring out my character here. Haven't seen randomize. Oh, she's kinda cute.
Yeah, as long as he could join Mono's cave real quick.
Oh, I see it.
Oh my god, those are eyebrows. Nice. Give her a unibrow. Oh. Oh my gosh. You give her a giant unibrow.
That's really cool that they have like a non-binary option.
Yo.
Yeah. Oh, I love the loading.
Yeah.
What are those little turnips?
No, they're eggs. Like
tattoos.
Why do we have like a little leaf on top?
Maybe they're a dinosaur track. I don't know.
Tattoo color, hairstyle. Oh, kind of like the one she has. Oh, color. Cool. I don't like the red though.
That's a really see-through skin color.
Oh, she's got like rainbow hair. Holy cow. Oh man, she got long hair with a flower in it. That's cute. That's so blonde, it's like blinding blonde. They have purple hair!
Yes, let's go!
And blue. They got different shades of blue and purple. Oh, I can have a beard. and boobs. I can have a beard and boobs, sorry.
You might like to have boobs in game.
Oh.
Well, the long hair is nice. There's so many hairstyles.
There we go.
Wait, around what button is hair?
Uh.
Hot pink, yes.
Choose your name. It's just gonna be Cat. Meow. You should make my name Meow. You have to say hi Meow. No. Because I don't feel like I'm no, I'm giving it Meow. 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 Alright, I think we're good. You guys got my code, right?
Yeah, I picked it off of stream.
Yeah. Stream sniping.
Yes.
Player 2 in
You
lobby.
have to accept us, dude.
Momo in lobby. Look! You're in the lobby. Them says hi, yay, back. Oh well, Dusclops, guys, if you want to go catch. I bought tons of Pokeballs for today. I guess I can't hit start until you guys are ready, it looks like, too. Yeah, it says waiting on other players. They did change a lot of the interface of other players joining, which is really nice. It's so smooth right now.
Oh my god, the hats.
I missed the hats! I didn't even see those!
There's like a weird coconut head or something.
Oh, yeah, I think I used that once. Alright, I'm gonna refill my beverage while you finish your characters.
Those tattoos are kind of strange. It's cool that they have a skull, though. Oh, they have the space buns. I used to rock the Mickey Mouse hairdo.
Heck yeah. Yeah, go touch cops.
Rain is ready.
Almost there.
No worries.
I saw that they have the twin buns that I used to do, the space buns. So I'm kind of doubting between yours.
Aww. So how is chat today? Lurking, listening? Meow. Aw, you guys are ready.
Hey.
I think it's only 3, because there's like not even room for another. I don't know. I think that's what I read.
3 hours to launch.
Sinking players. Dustclop has been caught by Lady Rain and Tim. I had an okay day. Aw. Well, I guess okay is better than a bad day, right? Not doing much? See, okay is a perfect day. Not every day can be a good day, and not every day can be a bad day, thank goodness. So, okay days are great too. Why is it sinking players? Sinking Momo.
What?
There it goes.
Oh, there it goes.
I could click
I
join.
mostly have okay days. There might be a lot of people playing it. It's only been out a couple hours. They waited till late in the day to launch it today. I kept watching the countdown on Twitter. It was like 2 hours, 1 hour.
Probably some
First
magic.
winter in this land is almost over. The clan is coming back home from the mountaintop. New Year's Eve.
Trees are cute. Oh, look, we
Where
brought
does
the
time go?
elders.
Where does time go? Hard to believe your rite of passage is soon. It still feels like we found you only yesterday. I bet you'll have the coolest totem of everyone. Maybe. I can sense there's something different about you, even right now. I don't want the winter festival to be over. I'm not ready to go to bed. One more story, please.
Bra.
Alright, just one more. Tell the story of how we got here. I like the way you tell it. Back when the summer sun still warmed our skin, it was time to pick the day for the next rite of passage. Walk. Our great shaman asked the spirits and got a strange answer. You must move, they demanded. No normal person should ever question the spirits, but our Vok is no normal person. Why, he asked. You need to find a tree far to the east, the spirit said. Only danger awaits you here. Not often I have perfect or good days. It's all good. Thanks, Mono. You're welcome, you're welcome. All the hugs. This gave our leader a difficult dilemma. We travel to unknown land or risk dissipating the spirits. But there was one thing he could always depend on. The clan! We packed up everything and walked. Walked and walked. Soon the leaves began to change color and we still hadn't found the tree. Cold and tired, we traveled through the savannah, unsure how much further we could walk. Shaman is strong, but not infallible. Could he have made a mistake as we were making camp? The earth shook. Ground groaned, a terrible sound as the trees threatened to topple. There was no doubt this was a powerful sign. But for what? The way we had come back was blocked, and winter was too close to go back. Then the clan did what it did best. We worked together. Some built our homes while others gathered food for the winter. Vok walked away from the group. Noticing his absence, Mao, Rain, and Momo followed him into a nearby forest. I was like, Mao? Like, wait, that's my name. And I was like, oh yeah, it is my name. Mao. It kind of fits with the cave people names. It was like, Mao, okay. Our shaman was distraught. How could he make everyone leave their homes only to be trapped in a strange land? But then they saw it. Ah!
GG.
Big tree.
That was the game. Did you enjoy? No.
The end!
Okay.
You hugged the bot, Tim?
Yep.
We were home. Roots of Pacha.
Waiting for... Oh, I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, you were ahead of us. I was trying to keep it with Mono.
I just thought I'll skip ahead and I'll just listen to Mono.
Hugs, Tim. Tim gets the cookies.
I guess I'm not cold.
Cookies. Add. Tim. 500 cookies. Congrats.
Woo!
Good, you're up.
Oh, damn.
It's finally spring.
Oh, God.
We all woke up. Now we get to work, but watch your stamina, guys. I know it's a different idea, but I think it'll work. We could grow food from wild seeds right here in these fields. Just need a little clearing. Or a lot.
I wonder what the...
Or a lot. I wish I could be there with you. My bones aren't what they used to be. I'm sure you'll find a way to help, I Rock. You always do. Thanks, sister. I think so too.
I totally thought they were married.
I thought so too. I didn't realize they were sisters. I thought they were a couple.
Brother and sister, yeah.
There you go. Items. Seeds.
Seeds.
1, 2, 3. Inventory. Smoke signals.
I love that.
Yeah. Contributions and stamina clothes. Okay, you guys do that. I'm gonna go gather some seeds real quick. While you guys plow the
I wonder
field.
what the punishment is for not finish or like being KO'd.
I'm gonna skip the tutorial. Make a bad decision. Oh, yes. You contribute products to the pot in the middle, and that is your currency. Basically. You have to contribute products in order to be able to build something. You gotta contribute to the tribe in order to have the tribe build you things. But you also want to save things, and later on you can build wooden storage bins to save things. So we don't want to, Ooh, cookies! Nom 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 nom! Yes, you got a gift of cookies.
I already made a little batch.
I see that.
For seeds.
Yeah.
Oh, why not? I selected it anyway. So.
On the beach. Oh yeah, watch your stamina though, because it will go down fast right now.
Oh, it's still okay.
No,
It's not as
good.
fast
Good.
as Stardew.
No, definitely not. It's way easier than Stardew.
Yeah, Stardew is pretty fierce in the beginning.
You know
Or
what I
is
like?
their stamina?
You can unearth ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh no, I didn't want this one here.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
hit it again.
Yeah,
And there's
so
another
it's
plot of land to the south as well. Just so you guys know.
No, this is the one. This is our primary one.
Mm-hmm.
Now discovered tomato.
Maters!
Yay.
I'm discovering all the seeds for you guys.
Can we swim? Start fishing, stand in the water, and use your hand axe.
Okay. Working together.
Pretty sure that's what you have in your hand, isn't
Next.
it?
Find wild seeds, plant a care for them, then pick their precious yields. Plan is preparing for the rite of passage. Okay.
I really want to know what happens when you pass out.
I don't know how this fishing system works at all. Oh, that's strange. It looks cool though.
Let's see.
And follow the fish.
Oh,
Oh.
the fishies. Oh, here. I'll find some stuff.
Upstairs,
Oh,
like
pod's
more?
down here. Okay. Hello, friend.
Oh, that's so cool! Okay, I love this fishing system way
And
more.
if somebody wants to grab a water,
How do we grab water? I'll be back in a bit.
I don't know if you can yet. It should be under 2 if you can.
Well, I can contribute 3 different items. I have 3 different items.
Oh, we can. Okay, we can order. Okay, I'm ordering. I got it. Racing tank! Welcome to the stream. How goes it? I planted 10 host seeds. Be proud of me.
Very proud.
Let's see. Oh, you can also cook in this game and romance as well.
Where are you guys?
Thank you for the lurk, Matthew. Welcome. I remember.
Where did you do the contribute stuff?
Oh, down here.
The center of town. Shaman in the forest preparing for him tomorrow's rite of passage. We shouldn't disturb him. Okay. I can't go in the forest yet.
So this is like the...
Waiting on some noodles to boil for dinner? Nudes.
I have fish.
Noodles are so yummy. A doggo. Talk. Pet. I can pet the doggo. It doesn't seem to trust us enough. Oh, where did I get out?
I want to pet a dog.
Black Wolf lives with Oka. I don't remember a doggo. That's so cute.
Bekti? Is that his name?
Something like that.
You can cook.
Okay, so I can't find any more seeds, and we can't go that way because I'm guessing our rite of passage thing is tomorrow. You find plants, so when you harvest, like I harvested
like
tomatoes and it gives me seeds. You harvest them, the wild ones, and they give you seeds, and then you can grow non-wild plants from the seeds.
Oh, if you talk to Myri, you get a flower.
Oh, cool.
The big fire down below.
Okay, tab.
It's I don't know why, but I only got something.
You got a flower?
I got a flower. It's the one on the left near the big.
Yeah. Work together. Take care. Can't wait. Your first 3 unique contributions. Take tallies contributions at the end of every day. Oh, you can pen on map. That's. Oh, okay. You can see where you're going. Oh, cool. And it shows me where I pick stuff at. And then you got what from her? Meat?
Red meat.
Interesting. A wild Magby appeared. Magby! Go catch!
Oh, I got 3 tomato seeds from Ada.
So
Oh, see, you're talking to people. You're doing good.
Did you talk to Myri? Do you see what she said? And your relationship to her?
No.
You can get children?
We're adopted grandchildren of.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Igor.
So even though they're brother and sister, we're their grandkids.
Yeah. They raised us.
It's cave people. It's all good.
Yeah, they do what they want.
But yeah, you can put your seeds in the garden, Momo, and then if you hit tab on your tool, it'll bring up the watering thing. And you can refill your watering thing over in the creek. I'll also have a torch for night. Escapes? No one call it Ugh. What's Ugh? Oh, I'm smiling. Gonna collect all the supplies because I know we need them eventually. Because you have to turn in like wood and stone and things for certain things to be built.
This is a really strange game. The mini game, sorry. Something with throwing stones and then using the arrows. But
Oh, you're basically playing marbles. Or no, jacks.
And I got like a stone box from it. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Playing games? That's
From
new.
the inventory? Yeah, it's near the fish thing.
I failed it.
Yeah, you have to like it's when the thingy goes up, you throw up the stone, and then you have to push all the arrows.
Oh, okay, the fishing game. Yeah. Okay.
Is it a fishing game?
Well, I mean, you're catching fish.
Really? No.
No, not the fishing thing.
Stones throwing. Okay, basically, if you talk to people, you get shit.
Yay! So we just need to talk to everybody.
I got until like 13 or something. Yeah.
I have to keep doing it until I get the thing, huh?
Yeah, I think you have to get above 8 to get it. She says something about 8. Wait, what is this? Hey, I have a water skin.
Oh, yeah, that's how you water the seeds that you put in the ground. You gotta go plant your seeds and water your crops. Oh, I get meat too.
Let me know if you need anything that needs building. Is this where we are? Yes.
Bam.
Can we only put boxes inside? Oh no. You're in.
Oh, it's getting dark.
Oh shit. How do I. Where's the seeds?
But I'm playing Bones.
I don't know how to water them.
First character subjects in the world to interact.
Wait, how do I get the seeds?
Save. Your day starts at 6 a.m., 2 a.m. the next day.
How do I get seeds?
It was the bloop. I don't know which one it was anymore. Ah,
Fishing.
which one did I say?
I don't know.
I thought I already contributed 3 items. Did I only do 2?
Yeah, I was only able to do 2.
Oh. Did y'all do 2 each? And then it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should be good.
So
Oh,
it
somebody
was
already
the
crafted.
same thing.
Cool. You already figured out how to craft.
Oh, ends at 2 a.m. Okay. Okay. That's fine.
Find your bed.
Let's see. How did I transfer again?
Where do you see the timer?
It doesn't
I don't
have
remember.
time. It's just the tree at the top, I think.
We haven't built a clock yet. We just gotta go to bed because we'll build a clock later.
Okay, I still have energy though.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah? Okay, no problem. I'm guessing it's the same system as Stardew where you can't sleep unless everybody's asleep.
Yeah.
Hello there. So there's more beds, but...
Momo is not
Yeah, so
sleeping.
we can have one more.
I'm coming!
Hey!
Glad prosperity. Nice.
Heck yeah.
I gotta remember how to open the storage chest and how to even craft one. You guys crafted one. I can't even remember.
No, we didn't craft one. We won it at the stone game I was telling you about.
Oh!
Yeah.
I'll take you. I'll take you there.
Okay.
It's near the tent where a lady is throwing bones or something, and there's like a fish
Okay.
rack outside.
But we have the right of passage.
When I first asked Pacha about these days, she called us to leave our home. Traveled far, but she rewarded us with this safe, fruitful land. She has given us much. Today we honor her with a promise. So when our totems are ready to reveal themselves, we're asked to serve the land, the spirits, and our clan. Silky! Thank you for the raid, Silky! Party at 8. Welcome, raiders!
Hi.
Welcome. Can I get a shout out for Silky? Let us begin.
Sure. No. Okay.
Hi, yeah! Hi for the raiders. So, thank you. Playing Stallcraft. Oh. Welcome. Ebon, Freyr, and Nook. How will you seal this promise?
Is that
Well, Pacha's rocks, I've discovered the magic of sound. Today I offer my first instrument.
Oh, like our brother. Cool.
She offered an ocarina. We've heard the roar of your music. The cave lion is the spirit that protects you. It's in Pacha's water that I've learned to watch the movements of fish. Today I offer the catch she gave me this morning. Fishy! Friar, you've known your patience. On the riverbanks, the animal that protects you is the bear.
I'll just do this.
Pacha taught me the art of combining different ingredients to make something mouth-watering. Hi, Kimono! Here to steal your bath bow. I mean toaster. How are you doing? Good. How are you? Today, I want to offer my best dish. Food offering. I only know one creature that shares your passion for food.
What do we do?
The wild boar protects you.
Right. Don't we all have to choose, though? I think stamina is a good one.
Right?
And the grow quickly. Maybe we can each do another
Mao,
one.
Mao, Rain, and Momo, how will you still steal your promise? Lucky enough to catch a flower that blooms like friendship, but just that gives. I'm gonna pick flower.
You're gonna do flower? Should I do stamina?
Do what you want.
I thought it was for the clan or something, or it's like a personal thing.
This is our
Yeah, you pick it, and it's gonna give you a thing.
I can do the farming, so I'll do the grow quickly.
Okay, I'll do this stamina one.
I like harvesting, so. Oh, Momo's cooking.
Shows friendship. Right?
Momo's cooking. Flower that blooms like friendship, yeah.
Plants will grow.
Put them in!
Yes.
Pacha rewards you with an increased charisma friendship bonus when talking to villagers.
Oh, so it is.
For generations, we've been guided into spiritual. What did yours say?
I got stamina.
And did
I
it
got,
say anything?
And our plants will grow faster.
So
Oh,
basically,
cool.
Rain has to plant everything.
Yep. She's a gardener, so basically you're picking your roles. So mine's
Well, no,
friendships and harvesting. So I guess I get more stuff from friends, maybe.
Yeah, and with the stamina, I would be like mining and
Oh, mining's fun though.
I think like preparing the grounds and whatnot and
Yeah.
food and whatnot, I guess.
Doing alright, more or less. Finished the event that's running in my game. I mean, haven't gotten everything, but can be bothered farming the rest, especially as in RNG. Sounds like you've been busy. Long ago, when Pacha first plucked humanity from the stars, it was her ancient spirit who advised us. The tree! Mao, Rain, and Momo, the same spirit protects you now. I love how all our names are like super short. The tree of Pacha.
Easy.
We're all proper cave names there. Momo. Mao. Rain. We named you because it was raining that night.
Right.
It was raining that night, so your name is Rain.
We're very doubtable together. We're like,
That's why you're good at planting and harvesting, is because you bring the rain.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, MMT, MMR. Yeah.
oh, this is like a festival thing again. Yeah.
Yeah, you talk to everybody.
Oh god, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, they're right.
Yep. Talk to them all.
Listen, by Pacha yourself. What an honor.
Yo.
My little girl's an adult now. I have some dust in my eye.
You always make me so proud.
Oh.
Matthew.
Someone's
Hi.
flirting.
Can't steal my sunshine? Welcome. One of my cousins' name is Sky Blue Pink. Can you guess how she got her name? Ooh. The sky was blue and pink? I don't know. Sunset? Sunset, maybe? Yeah. They put the event items into some sort of loot crates. I mean, you can farm them, but the chances are super low. I got everything I absolutely wanted. There is only one item still outstanding for completion. I mean, if I get it by chance, yes, I take it. But I'm not going to hunt for it anymore. Oh no. Ding 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 ding, the sunset! My aunt and uncle were hippies. Oh. Sunset! Sounds pretty. Stroke while naming her. Oh my god, silky balls. I was like, it has
Holy
to be a
shit.
sunset.
Jin be like, I guess there's something special about today.
Oh.
Okay, did this guy also flirt with you? Cause Yuck is flirting.
I'm not a very good friend. I'm not paying attention to what they're saying very well. I got the friendship one. Yeah. Your energy is different now.
By the way, answer horse. I think.
Yes.
Oh.
I did horse and she was
Horse or boar? Yeah, horse.
Stop moving, people. Now I don't know who I talk to.
Right? Because they don't stay in one spot.
Some of them move. Grandpa should stay.
I think a couple of them I've talked to a couple times. I feel like I have. Yeah, that was cute.
I think I have everyone.
I think so too. Not sure.
Wait, did you get another question before? Because I'm only
No, and there isn't any blue when you are stroking. Just lots of waves on the monitor or piece of paper. Oh god. A wild Zuelis appeared. Catch it.
Oh no, Rain, did you get one question or another one? Did you only get the horse and board question, or was it? Oh, okay. In case I missed something.
Oh, are we going back?
Mm-hmm. Oops.
Well,
Sorry.
I guess we are now.
Sorry.
Wait, weren't you done?
Poke catch.
Yeah.
You don't have the trainer pass yet. Poke start. Poke start.
Did you get here?
Your starting Pokemon is Piplio.
I wonder if us contributing to the tree was the third item.
Maybe.
I don't know. I did 3.
Oh.
Rite of passage.
Because there's an exclamation mark person.
Tara wants
I
you
have
to
an extra
thank
solar
you
dryer.
for contributing
Guys,
to
here.
the clan. Talk to
Grab the
Tara.
solar dryer.
New idea. Oka has seen a friendly animal nearby and thinks we can get closer. So yeah, one of you guys can go befriend the animal.
Oh no,
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
You have to go here, Mono. To the right. There's a free thing you can get.
Meow.
There's an exclamation
Show
mark
me,
above
show me,
the
show me.
person. Yeah, wait, I was in that screen. Close the screen. To here.
This
To
way.
here. This way.
Oh.
Up. See? This person. I had an exclamation mark above her.
Oh yeah, that's the one I gotta talk to. But I guess
Yeah,
you
the
could talk to it, so it's
solar
good.
dryer.
Exchange. Oh, for money you can exchange for things. Interesting. Cooking tools? Cooking tools.
I mean, I decided.
Do I need to talk to her again? Didn't actually do something? 69 for roast fish.
Yeah, I don't know who Oka is. I'm trying to find her too. I want to
We'll do
talk
it.
to the animals, please. Oka.
Oka is the one that has like the wolfy hair. Okay, weird Pokemon. What happened to all the good ones? And apparently that one escaped and won't let us catch it anyway, so...
Can't find the Oka.
Yeah.
We have to go to her, so we have to go Figure out where the.
Yeah.
Oh, to the left. To the left. We're going to the left.
I'm coming. I found some carrot
Like kicking
seeds
that
up
guy
the
out in
mountain.
Beyonce's song.
What, did you collect all the
Everything in the
things
box
up
to
here?
the left, guys.
To the left,
To the left, to the left. Also, there is only one perfect starter Pokemon. Which one? Piplup, Mudkip, Chikorita, Chikorita, Chikorita.
No, go to the left. Never mind.
There's bunnies.
Why did you think to the left?
I think I have to go down.
Everything in the box to the left.
Right?
I'm only.
Oh,
I got parsley as hair.
Olga, come back. Should probably the campfire. Hey, oh man, those are so cute. All the little
Don't go left, Mono. Don't go left.
Poggos.
I lied.
Okay. Let me guess you want
The Jedi.
Pikachu for this electric ability. Bulbasaur! It comes with a whip!
Follow this path to the right.
Bulbasaur, because it bites your tongue. Oh!
This is such
Oh,
a
that's bad.
Oh,
So are y'all just looking for Oka? Is that what you're doing?
Not the one we needed.
Oh no, that's a boar. I think it's gonna attack me.
Is she gonna be up the mountain? Because I was halfway there, but then I stopped.
There's a bunny with long ears.
Maybe she's deep into the woods.
I don't remember the bunnies.
I am
New
in the
seed.
They
Potatoes!
did not attack.
Okay, cool.
Potatoes.
Potato siege?
You guys are a mess. Bulbasaur because it has a whip. Oh, we know what you're thinking.
Ooh, I got some rose hips.
Nice. Tell us if you
Stronger
find her.
tool. We can't get pine cones on the trees yet.
Don't die. Oh, I went to the left. There's a... I don't know what this is.
That's
Not let you leave?
Alright. Water.
Yeah, let's
Well,
us
we can
leave.
cross the water.
Oh, yeah.
What? Vine
Oh,
whip?
if you go-
Where did
Hey,
you,
if
all
you
your
go across
minds
the-
go?
You can cross the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can walk across and then you go back to the village.
My mind went to trying to find my toaster that you
What is the
stole.
mountain?
If you went to the top of
There's
the mountain,
caves.
get a shortcut to the village.
There's caves at the
Really?
very top.
So I literally like took the long way around to the village.
There's a shortcut to the village at the top of the mountain now? Oh, you got it.
Yeah,
Cool.
we walked back and forth on the mountain Mono for nothing.
Help Oka's idea.
Oh,
Help
no,
remember
it's a little
storage will help
wolfie.
us closer to animals.
Gara, white wolf. Pretty.
You idea. Oka remembers the story. Blah blah. Plant
We're infected
fibers.
The wolf girl.
Required items, so we gotta donate 20 fibers into the pot tonight.
Oh, I found a lot of tomato seeds.
Unless we already have 20.
Oh yeah,
I
got
don't know.
Okay.
some. I'll put 'em
I don't know if they have to go in the pot or if we just have to give
we
them
have
to her.
contribute them and then she'll talk to us.
Maybe I just
Welcome.
discuss idea. I have them, so maybe that'll work. Yeah.
Nice. Talk.
Toaster? What toaster? Takes a
you
bath.
need to
No!
Okay. I guess me just
Drinks.
moving the fiber into my inventory helped you.
We need to drink
Yeah.
chamomile tea and come back in
No,
a
we
day.
just have to wait. We just have to wait a day.
No, we need the tea. No.
We don't
Oh,
have
jeez.
chamomile.
Do I still need to contribute?
Okay, where do I do this rock, paper,
Yeah,
scissors
can't-
thing happen at?
No. Can I still? Should we still contribute, or are we okay
yeah.
for now?
I think we should be okay for now, but we're at 80.
Don't worry, it doesn't kill him. He just
I'll water the
likes
crops
the
first
way it
before I can
tingles. Oh my god, dang it. The 7th toaster this month, so can you please let me have my toaster? But I call those spices bath bombs? Oh my god. Not to the river again.
Oh, sorry.
Vodka? Oh, his name Vodka. It's Vada.
Yeah, I read vodka too, but it's Voda.
Voda has an idea. Where is... Oh, okay. I'll go talk to him. Voda, come here. Oh, more oregano. Thank goodness oregano is easy to find. There was a glitch in the first game where oregano just wouldn't spawn in some save files at all. So you couldn't make some of the recipes. And I'm like, no. Water skins, underground. Oh, we need 20 stones. I'm a couple stones short. Is there any stones in the chest?
22 in my chest. Or
Okay.
on me. No.
But I think I have turned chat weird enough for tonight. I need some sleep. Nah. Have a great stream. It's never weird. It's never too weird.
Sleep is for the weak.
Sleep, yeah. I mean, it's only 7:47 unless you're in the future, which I know you are. So how's the future? What did I say I need? Oh, I needed stones.
Shit.
Or unless you're in the past like me.
Yeah. Have a great stream. Thank you so much, Silky Paws. Thank you again for that raid, Mihun. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dark.
Oh, I messed up.
The future is very dark. Tem has informed
Tell me
us that the
something.
future is very dark.
Alright.
Good night, then.
Hello.
Good night,
darkness,
Silky.
my
Thank you as
friend.
always for those raids. Oh no, the person I wanted to talk to left! Where did they go? They probably went to freaking bed.
I got them.
Ah, cool.
They probably went to bed. Or did you talk to him and give him stone?
I didn't give them stones, so they went.
Okay, they went to bed without me. Rude.
No, let's talk tomorrow. I got you a frozen dinner.
Are you already sleeping? No.
Dark, very dark. I think I switched off the lights. Good night. Good night, Silky.
Oyasumi, Silky Paws.
They went to bed without me. That's what she said.
Stop watering plants, Momo.
You switched your tools. Try to use up your energy real quick before it gets too dark.
It's I'm still at a 90%. I feel like I did nothing. Or oh, I have more stamina than you guys. Maybe that's also why.
Probably.
Hiya,
I
hiya, hiya.
had my stamina. I was like digging everything up.
Good way to go. And then, you know, donate things, but don't donate at all.
Oh, we need 20
Yeah, I
stone
donated
for
half.
the vodka.
Yeah, Voda went to bed before I could hand him the 20 stone.
I don't even have 20 stone yet.
I
was
do.
fucking
I have
around finding
32. They were just slackers. Went to bed early.
No, I was looking for the animal lady.
No. They went to bed early. I went to hand them the stone and they had left their
Oh.
spot. They left it. They went.
Me a slacker.
No! You're a hard worker, Momo.
Huh? I don't know. I didn't know what you wanted. Figure you might have been tired of Dr. Pepper.
Is it gonna give you a warning that it's time to sleep?
Nope.
Wow. So it's like really like, oh, it's dark. I should go to bed.
Yep.
Oh,
So
shit. I'm coming.
we haven't developed a sense of time yet, so we don't have a clock yet. We will have a clock later, and bedtime's 2 a.m.
I didn't see like that you guys went to bed either. Like I didn't get like a notification or anything.
Oh, I didn't either. Until I'm in bed, then it says you guys are being slackers and not in bed, that kind of thing. And spring. Sounds fun. See.
Okay. Timmy! You're your own
Yawn.
love.
Okay,
Learn
shifts
to
with
love
Timmy.
yourself.
Oh, I don't even have ship command. I can just be angry.
You do have a ship command.
There's a lot to bear.
I guess I should go to bed and join Silky. No, I'm kidding.
Wow. Okay. I'll go finish the idea.
Oh shit, I'm stupid. Rain, you should
And
have
Fire's
done
totem
the
is a lot to
planting.
bear. Talk to
Sorry.
Friar.
I just did it out of things. This Rain has the
I was
fastest
right.
blend.
Ancestors intimidate birds. We get closer to the prey with the right whistles. The animals could run. This made me think of flutes, the one we used for the rituals and dances. Some of them sound like birds too. I asked Acre to make this special flute. I'm sure it will work.
Ooh, I found a blue seashell.
Why don't we try to make some new friends?
Rain is coming. I can feel it in my knees.
Where's my other person?
Okay. What?
Pain in the butt persons. Walking the wrong way. Gives wine to Mono. Thank you so much. I need all the
Oh,
wine.
this guy needs help. Mono, Mono.
Okay, you did it. You clicked it. Or did it?
Oh, so it's only one of us that has to do
I
it?
think.
He needs 3.
Shallow
fish.
waters. Friar needs you to help fish for the clan, yeah.
So I
He
don't
needs
need to
fishes.
talk to Oka anymore because you. Guys
No, I did it. Yeah, I talked it. You should have a flute in your inventory now, I think. That's how that works, yeah. If you hit tab on your tools, you have a flute and you can go talk to animals and try to tame them.
Oh my god. There's dots on them. Is that like the limit per day?
It's a mini game.
Oh. What? Oh my god, this is a huge tent. Where is she?
I messed up. Oh, I got it.
Porcupine!
Sinks Tinamo to sleep. Aww. Oh, you can sing it to sleep so we can catch it. There we go.
That's so cute!
We'll catch Great Ball.
Okay, where's vodka?
It's his name now. It's Vodka.
Yeah. I should be in the same tent as her, but I can't find her. Why?
On more of those. I need one more fish to give to this dude.
The spirits lead me.
Fishy.
Just like the clan that wait, aren't you the one I need?
Fishing was super hard when they first came out with this game.
If we dig, maybe we can reach the water, but how to contain
And
it?
then
Well, well, well.
Vodka has begun working. Can I talk
I like
to
that
you?
we can all do like separate stuff that helps each other. Like it's not
Mhm.
like everybody has to do the thing.
Vodka's working on an idea to reach the underground water. Oh yeah, that's so you can make like a little whale. Woohoo! Timmy caught the biggest fish. Boink. Boink. You knocked him out? Is that how we caught it? Matthew, you knocked the fish out?
Mono, do you know if we can like put stuff elsewhere for if we want to change stuff? Maybe not.
Yeah, you put it in that stone crate.
I put up the dryer thing, but I don't have any meat right now.
Dryer thing. Oh yeah. Dirt floor, wood floor, stone floor, solar
The
dryer.
storage box is above the field.
Yeah.
Is it yours, Rain?
That's the one you got in the mini rock game, the storage box.
Yeah, but whose is it? Like, we all have one.
Well, you can use it. Because we all just share the supplies to accomplish the goals, so it really doesn't matter.
Okay. I will take the meat and put it in the dryer.
Yeah, you could put fish in the dryer too.
Oh, look, it's so cute!
But yeah, oh, there's two of them, so yeah. But you put the fish in the dryer so you can eat them. It makes them like more valuable or whatever.
Lasts longer.
Mhm. Like, and then you could put like a.
Should Should we do like a system that the top box
Yeah.
is food and then the lower box is resources?
A good idea.
What do we do with the flowers? Oh, it heals colds. Okay.
Did you say top one's food?
Yeah.
Transfer.
Is this considered food, the blue shell? I don't think so. No.
Risco! Welcome, Risco! Which emo is that, Matthew? Is that Sleepy? Oh, cocoa. Oh my god. It's got like hot cocoa or coffee or something. You need that.
I've been sitting here talking to you guys the entire time, but I forgot I muted because I was
No!
supposed to talk
I
earlier.
was like, why is she so quiet?
Ah.
You can only.
Oh, I was supposed to
use, like,
contribute
4
the
animals
fish.
in a day, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I thought because of the dots. Yeah.
I was a dodo bird. I cooked the fish instead of contributing them to the community.
Can I give you this? Is this like we need to?
Oh, that's seeds. Yeah, you can plant them on the ground.
Yeah, but because Rain has the seed fast grower, I thought like I would give.
Oh, you can put them in the chest and let her do it. Yeah.
No, I couldn't.
How are you doing?
It wasn't in my inventory.
Oh.
That's weird.
Oh yeah, I guess you can't with seeds.
There's a little
Maybe.
black bunny somewhere.
You want to find it?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I made friends with it, but now I can't find it.
I thought it was like across the water somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, there's 2 black bunnies.
A good leader knows what's best. Okay, okay.
Okay.
No, I'm not
Names
catching any
the
of the
4
fish.
animals that I have played my flute to. They be
I'm
our
gonna
friends
try this
now.
flip thingy.
You should be friends with the animals. Rename the animals after succeeding.
Trying to catch some fish.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, I found the seed. Oh, there's a bucket near the. Oh, I don't want to play the.
I'm not having any luck with the fish. They hate me.
Be still in the water, Mono. Be one with the water.
My mouse is too fast. Where's Genshin? I know.
I know this problem.
Tomorrow night is Star Rail, the new Genshin. And then this weekend will be Genshin. It'll be back. This is a new game as well that I played the alpha of. So I wanted to play because today's the first day it came out. So it's called Roots of Pacha. It's kind of Stardew Valley-esque.
I love the fishing so much. It's so much better than Stardew.
Right?
The fish are paid.
I'm very bad at fishing in Stardew. Cause
So am I. Wait. I don't have any seeds in here yet, do I?
no, we can't transfer the seeds somehow. I tried, so I just planted it.
Yeah, you can't transfer them.
How do you even get seeds?
You find them across.
You have to go get them, but I'm guessing if you water them, then it helps.
Okay, so we'll leave the watering to Rain.
Why are these fish all so difficult?
Where are the bunnies? Where are the animals? Hello?
I have no patience. Mona's gonna get mad at me today. Why? I'm not sleeping tonight. Why, Turtle? Why are you not sleeping tonight? Racing Tank, welcome. You're
Probably
gonna
never.
play Hanukkah? Yes. I haven't tried it yet. It comes out tomorrow. Hanukkah isn't out yet. Hanokai, or how do you say it? Huh? Honkai? Yeah. It comes out tomorrow, or tonight, or soon. I didn't look at the timeline. I know Turtle posted it,
So cute.
but I didn't get to read it. I'll be on Star Rail all night since it's on the phone. Oh no.
I don't know.
Not responding to anyone. You're so rude.
A tune? No. Inspect. Oh, that's Raspberry. And then I can rename him again? That's weird.
Where's the person I need to talk to?
I
They
didn't
all
want
go
the
to
big
bed
one.
already.
Oh, fuck.
Did somebody give what's his name 3 fish?
Nope.
No, not yet.
He went to bed already again. I'm not making the mistake of cooking them this time.
Okay, the music game is really cute. I just befriended the big boar though. Didn't want to do that.
Our other assignment is to plant like 4 seeds or something.
Wait, oh, there we go. That's how I catch it. Oh my god. This fishing is really hard.
It is a little hard. The bigger fish are harder than the smaller fish, of course. Phone is fully charged and ready to spend gotcha money. Don't do it! Oh, turtle, don't spend any money!
No,
Don't fall for the trap!
Don't do it.
Wait, what's the trap?
Hanukkah rail comes out in just a bit.
Hanukkah rail?
Honkai. Star rail.
Oh, right, sorry.
I'm just gonna call it Star Rail so I don't get it wrong. See you tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to sleep. Okay, Risco. See you tomorrow too. Thank you for stopping in and trying and saying hi though. I will be playing Genshin again. Don't worry. Not tomorrow, but this weekend.
I feel like I have done nothing. I have 3 fish.
I befriended a little goatie.
I thought the top one was food. Do I have it backwards?
I moved things.
Top was food and bottom was non-food. I already have a gift card redeemed. Too late. It's Mons from the Scratchers, so it's not technically my money. Oh.
Where is the shortcut on the mountain? Because it's getting late.
It's all the way to the left on the mountain.
Okay, cool.
Ooh.
How does that
You used to be able to contribute plant fiber. I don't know why you can't contribute plant fiber anymore.
So dark. Oh, the shortcut to the village. Do you want to go back? Yeah.
I only found boars and
That's okay.
No,
I made friends with 2 boars.
I want doggos. I want. Where's the village? The village wolf.
Oh my god. I think he's sleeping.
Oh no, there he is. But that's a gray one. Oh, so cute. Great. Oh, he lives with Oka. He can't rename him. Okay, go to sleep, Momo. Go to sleep. Oh wait, you're not there. Oh.
Oh no, go to bed.
Okay, bedtime. Run, Momo!
I took your bed.
I knew she was out in the mountains, and I figured it would take time for her to get back down here.
Secret tunnel.
Oh, God. Yes, sleep. Oh, God. Okay, thanks. We only donated 3 flowers. We're slackers.
Oh shit, we need to donate flowers? I'm sorry.
No.
No, I mean, we only donated 3 thanks period to the community. We were slackers.
No. We're
Do we-
hoarding everything. They can suck.
Do we need to do it like every day?
No, but it
Like-
just helps us build things faster.
Right.
It's like
What?
building clan currency. Looks like a year BC 800 kind of started. It is! It's caves. The caves are calling. The energy seems to be flowing in the caves. Momo! The caves are calling you.
Caves are calling.
Momo has the cave ability or something. Oh, we're in the cave. Never mind.
Dun, dun, dun. Look, it's a Mario pipe. It's a cave.
To the cave.
It's a pillar.
2 hours left. And I'll be gone.
It's ready.
Dude! Don't ignore us, turtle. Oh yeah, you don't have to water the garden when it's raining.
That's nice.
Yay. Golda is who I have to talk to for
Yeah, and I gotta give somebody fish when they get out of bed.
Oh. I'll let you do that.
I'll go
Is that Voda?
talk to Voda. Oh, sorry. Are you gonna?
Voda? Oh, I can't find Voda. I don't know where Voda's
She's in.
at.
If you go to the map, you can see in which tent she is. But I got her.
Okay.
It's really. It's better than it started, to be honest, because these things, like this map, tells you exactly where the person.
Where people are. Mm-hmm.
We get a water pit. Well.
Where do the caves be? Oh, the caves up in the forest. I go
Oh,
be
God.
something.
Where should I put the well? Well, near the field, I guess.
Yeah, put it near the garden usually because it helps you, keeps you from having to walk to the waterfront. Usually I actually put the garden near the waterfront and cheat.
Put it here?
Yeah. But if your garden's near the water, it just, you don't even need a well. But
yeah, it's right there. Oh, is it like randomized?
no, like you need water to water your plants, and if the water source is closer, you can fill up your doohickey faster.
Right. I love how you can see on the map the rain is going towards the cave. Because you're like going to the right.
Alright, where's the dude I gotta talk to at now? Did he disappear again?
It's the fish one?
Yeah.
Let me check for you on the map. Oh, yeah.
Caves are calling. Freyr needs fish.
So many people. Oh my god, they even have a system where you can... Oh, I love this game. He's in the fishy tent. And it even tells you when the tomatoes are ripe. Oh my god. Baseballs.
Which tent is he in? How did you do it?
The one where you did the stone game, I think.
Well, I didn't do the stone game. Nobody.
Oh god. Look where I am on the map.
Okay, right there. Alright.
And then he's in this one with the fishies. Wait, so you didn't do the
It has
stone game,
co-op,
no?
but only to add friends and help with some content. Okay. So not quite as good as Genshin yet on co-op.
Here he is. Okay, I'll just
Where?
to keep him here. Oh no, are you almost here yet?
I don't know where I'm at. Oh, wrong tent.
Go where I am.
I was in the wrong
Go
tent.
lower. Come to me.
You're special.
Oh no. Mama.
Right here. No, he's next to me. I'm keeping him.
Where are you?
Yeah, because he was walking away. I was like, oh shit.
Oh, there's Soot.
There's Soot?
I'm so confused.
Oh,
Why
yeah,
won't he
one
let me
button.
give him fish?
Oh.
One of them's name is Soot.
Damn it. I was like, my Ghibli heart just went.
He won't let me do it.
Do it.
Oh, I gotta contribute the fish. Never mind.
Oh, wow.
I don't need him. I just gotta put the fish in the thing.
Need you.
I don't. I just gotta put them in the thing.
I can invite the two bunnies that I have that trust me.
Retro, hello.
Really?
Hello.
You can invite them to the town?
Shane,
I'm
welcome.
with you if you have your own place, yeah.
A Sheninja. Catch the Sheninja. Oh no, it escaped. Oh, Turtle caught it. I wasn't paying attention. So welcome, JJ. Retro. Welcome to the stream. How goes it? Can I get a shout out for JJ?
No, I'm in the middle of playing music.
Oh, Shane's here, but he might be lurking. He says lurking, so.
Doesn't do that automatically?
Carrot seeds.
You can shake the pine trees for pine cones, by the way.
Yeah.
Is this one raspberry? This one is raspberry. Oh, I can't play music to raspberry. Sorry, raspberry.
No raspberries. You want animals you can ride, Green.
Guess this is gonna be a fruit tree.
But there's not really a point in taming them yet.
No?
Until we have a house to put them in.
Oh. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. We have a barn.
Well, that's too bad. I timed.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with practicing, but
I tamed two bunnies. They're already named, and they trust me.
Do they each have
Can't
their
go
own,
that
like,
way.
each animal has their own song?
Ah!
Yeah. Well, each type of animal has their
Can't
own
open
name.
it. Sorry, I can't really hang out. I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna lurk until I crash. Okay, thank you, Shane, for the lurk.
Also, I can't go to the cave.
Do we all need to be there?
Oh, I bet we do because it's an event thing, like a scene.
It's okay.
I'm coming.
What's the name of
I'm gonna play it real fast.
Okay. It's over 9,000. So we can go tomorrow then, I guess.
Yeah, that's better. I was on my way.
We'll go first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it's great. This was a good day though, because it's raining.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought my seeds just disappeared on me. They never disappeared on me. I just had to click on the bag.
You just had to click one and tab around so you found them.
Thanks for telling me.
I mean, it was in the tutorial. But yeah.
She probably skipped the tutorial like I
Did
did.
you just find all the seeds?
In my
Did
pocket.
you
That's what I do. Oh wait, if they're in my bag, you can plant them? That's cool.
Oh, so whatever you guys had, I just planted.
It's like a shared bag, I think.
I didn't think it was.
I think. Oh, I know, but I thought I had 3 seeds a minute ago, and now I don't. I thought I had 3 purple carrots.
Oh yeah, I just planted them.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, so then maybe we do share seeds. So guys, stop
Maybe.
planting seeds.
Okay.
Because I can plant the seeds then.
Momo, Lady Rain has learned how to plant seeds. Finally.
Now I finally learn how.
Wait, I found more.
I think I'm having one more
Nice,
smoke.
Yay!
Oh, yay! You found some new ones.
They're on the top.
Quinoa.
Oh look! Hey! Someone want to hold me some?
Yeah, Rain.
No, I got it. I got it.
I got rose hips.
Yeah, look. I plant them
Yum.
now. Yay!
GG.
Look at them being so good.
You have to tab and then you can like...
I'm wondering now if there's 2 waterfalls. Because I feel like I took a different path than...
Maybe we're between 2 waterfalls?
I gotta see this new path when we go up there because I am not familiar with it. We used to have to walk all the way back down the mountain and there was no shortcut. In my day, we walked 3 miles in the snow!
Oh my god. Hill, both ways.
Yeah, you had to go all the way up the hill and all the way back down. There was no shortcut.
Probably fainted loads.
That's a cute emote though. Like a rave Pikachu. I like it.
It's good to know that the bag is universal for the seeds. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
So one can just go gather up the
I don't think it was always that way.
Heck yeah.
That might be new.
Staying around the camp and planting them.
We used to be able to donate fibers though. I don't know why you can't donate fibers.
I think because it doesn't contribute anymore.
Yeah, it used to.
Alright.
like, why do I need all this
Some
fiber
character
then?
said it's a perfect day for Tahit's stories, but maybe that's a hint for something.
Stories?
No,
Looks like
Tahit's
it's-
stories. So I guess it's like a village elder or something. That's not a story.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like it's pouring rain to me.
Yep. Pine nuts. Oh, pine nuts are for a dish.
Yeah, you can cook, so yeah, don't get rid of the oregano I threw in the box. It's important for one of the dishes.
Oh no, it's a wild pine cone. I'm just contributing them because they're loads.
Alright, time for bed. Let's find my bed.
Just gonna check where
That is not bed.
all the way down again.
That's where everybody's partying at.
Again in the fish tent. Damn it.
So bad we go.
Oh no, wait. Just gonna check for that very fast.
And then we all go together to the mines first thing in the morning.
I'm still full stamina, so I guess not a lot costs stamina.
No, it's mostly doing the harvesting
Yeah.
of the
It's only
rocks
the field
and
that costs stamina.
mining and
Yeah. Oh, cool. It won't tell me.
gardening.
Yeah.
Okay. You snore.
Well, that's too bad. I know I do.
Oh, look at all the prosperity. Wait, you donated wood and stone?
Yeah, I donated half of what was in my inventory. And I put the other half in the chest. So I still try to contribute using that.
Yeah.
It helps.
I just did useless items. I thought, okay, we need everything.
Like Stardew.
Yeah. Like in Stardew,
Nah.
I did learn like plant everything first, all the seeds, and then especially the ones that give twice or multiple times.
Saved.
I just realized that Matthew is so good.
Open your journal to
me
learn
figuring
more.
out how to play it.
To the mountain.
Fire has a gift for
Can we make
you.
tools yet? I haven't figured that.
Yeah,
Oh, I
tools
will.
happen
Water
soon.
first. Rain.
Did it just pop up?
Let me do water first.
Oh, okay.
Well, you can water late at night. It didn't matter.
If we forget, then and we run out of
We'll be in trouble.
yeah. Like it will be all for nothing. I'll do most though, because I have the most stamina. Oh.
Oh, I'm picking things. Yay!
Another thing.
Oh, rude. Why you?
Wait,
Oh, I should have let you pick them.
Yeah.
Crap.
Are we doing them double?
No.
Okay. Oh! Exclamation mark. I'm too old to be tending traps. What if I grew plants to harvest their seeds? I could even grow a sapling for trees, so you'll always have something to plant. Oh, he needs any harvest. Okay, well. To the mountain.
Don't give him my purple carrots.
Get more seeds. Gift.
Are we going? So, but
There's no. I gotta go talk to the
where is
fisher
it
guy.
for you?
Yeah. Grab that. Since we're right here. By the garden.
You're going there?
There.
Hey, Grandpa doesn't like
Smoker.
mushrooms.
No, it needs to be harvest stuff.
We now have a smoker
Oh,
to
I
go
just
with
tried
the
to
other
gift-
thing.
I just tried to gift him a mushroom.
Yeah.
Didn't like it.
Okay, we going to the mountain?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the shortcut only works for for going back, right? Not for going there.
There.
Correct.
Okay, sucks.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Go faster, Mama!
What? Go faster? I'm
Oh,
running as
no.
fast as I can.
I'm trying to catch up to you guys.
I haven't gone very far.
I haven't crossed the water yet.
You're going to bed, Timmy?
I went too far south. Fuck.
Why are you going south for?
Because I'm done. I don't know where I'm at.
Hiya, Momo, Mono, and Rain.
Yeah, I see it now.
It's Mao, Rain, and Momo.
Time to get to
Meow.
sleep. Oyasumi, Dim Dim. Look, this is where you get the.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, not right. Oh.
Yeah, you can also get the mushrooms. Pine cones. Hey, can I get the mushrooms off the log? No. I get pine cones. Oh, those are pomegranates growing.
Oh, you know those are pomegranates? I was wondering what they were gonna be.
They're pomegranates. They're just not ready yet.
Playing more music to a bunny.
There's
Potatoes.
Sorry, guys. I have to play music to a bunny.
You
real
don't
quick.
have
Oh, going to the cinema tomorrow. Oh, you're gonna go to see. You're gonna go see Mario or Dragon Ball or Dungeons and Dragons. What are you gonna go see?
Scary movie.
You should definitely see.
See some scary movies.
Ah, not the scary movie. Dungeons and Dragons worth it though.
Oh, the scary movie, right? Oh, where's Rain?
I got distracted with a bunny. Okay.
We're not there yet either.
Quinoa seeds.
It's not my fault. I clicked on it to see how it was
Ooh,
doing.
did I have
New
it?
fish. Oh, it's so cute. I like it.
Oh, I want to catch this. I'm sorry. This is a wolfie. I wanna
Catch it.
shoot it.
Oh, that's the shortcut. That's so new. The shortcut was never there before.
It's really handy.
I got.
Evil Dead Rise, I thought it was. Poke catch, guys. Poke catch, poke catch.
I'm doing the game, mini game. Yeah. Evil
Right.
Dead, no.
You don't own that ball, Momo. You're out of balls. You have no balls.
Crispy?
What?
Did you name one of them Crispy?
Yeah, maybe.
I thought I was playing to Raspberry.
Timmy
Well,
caught the
Crispy's
biggest
trusted
fish.
now.
Cool.
Congratulations, Tim. That frog face, no. Cora eats. Caves are calling, people.
Oh God.
Trying.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, that one wasn't Raspberry either. Damn it.
It's there. I'm here.
Good time to get some
Not.
sleep.
Come on, Rain.
Oh,
Come on, Rain.
the fluffies.
We had one job.
This is already
Get to the
day.
caves.
Oh, shit.
And we all got ADHD and got distracted getting to the caves.
Distracted with the wolf.
Have a good stream. Enjoy playing the game. Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out watching. Tomorrow night is Star Rail and then back to Genshin, guys.
It's okay, I got most of it.
Are you almost there?
I'm coming.
Where were you? The other side of the map?
No.
She was near the wolves. That's on the right. There
Yeah.
she is.
There I am. Hi guys.
Bye-bye. Good night. Bye.
I was befriending the little gray wolf.
Oh, what the heck is
An
that?
armadillo! A glowing armadillo!
Hi.
He's cute.
There, a trellis. Run and hide in a safe place, okay?
Oh, they're so cute! Glowing armadillos!
It's okay.
I love
Just
how
do
we have
what we
only
practiced.
shades of purple and pink hair.
Right.
By the way.
I
Guess
don't
we're
remember
supposed to be
my
fishing,
lines.
right?
Yeah.
I got this. Good. Just don't be overly dramatic about it.
I would never.
I would never. Hi.
Ooh.
The caves are a maze of challenges built by the totems to test you. It won't be easy, but you can do it. To pass these trials, you must first prove your strength by breaking rocks. He's mad. You're not supposed to tell him. Sorry.
We can do that. We've already been breaking rocks, man.
Good luck.
But he's so cute.
They're adorable. I need them as friends.
Yes. Okay.
Break all the rocks. Break,
Sorry, guys.
break.
Greg, what are you doing?
She's decided to play music instead of break rocks. Okay, and then we come this way.
Oh, okay.
Was that
Break
it?
more rocks.
All the rocks.
Oh,
I want a rock. Oh, cave in.
Teamwork.
Good luck on your trials, fellas.
Look.
what are those plants?
Oh.
Oh, there's two paths.
Oh no. Oh, we just keep destroying the Rockies.
I'm
Yeah.
just
I
guessing.
have to. I want to get all
Hide
of
to
them.
my safe place.
Don't go below
You
the
dancing
pointy
turtle?
thing,
Is it time?
I think.
Alright, it's glowing.
I did it.
Yeah, I saw that.
This power is still out of reach. Dang it.
But how is this a puzzle to break rocks?
You'll see.
Mono went left. We're up here.
What are these shiny things? Are they just lanterns?
No.
Matching the symbols on the statues to my paintings was done. But I'm extra proud of the pine cone and the pomegranate I drew in this one. Oh, you need to open a certain amount. Glyph just wants to make sure that stays a secret. Oh, never mind.
Here we go.
As sure as a tree is sturdy, our relationship will produce greatness.
Unknown cave painting. We gotta find the question marks or something. I don't know.
Didn't we see that one already?
I think so.
Oh, and those little tunnels are like shortcuts.
Let's see. Not this one. See?
Oh,
What?
interesting.
For asking for favors from totems, you first must offer your friendship in the form of a gift. Hints are painted on the walls with symbols that match what the totems want. Okay.
Oh.
Yes, talking
So a
to the...
tomato.
So that one wants a pine cone.
Pine cone?
Oh, we got some. Yeah.
How do I give it to it though?
Pomegranate.
A pomegranate. Yeah, I don't have those. But...
No.
Do you have to have all of them to give it?
Oh, and coconuts, I guess. Yes.
Pomegranate.
Maybe you have to have all three at the same time. Pine cone, pomegranate, and
Oh,
coconuts.
there's one more. Cause I thought it was 4. Is it?
Oh,
totem for totem?
you put them in here.
Oh. Oh, so is it just
Yeah,
one
so
at a-
that's the hint.
Yeah, it's a challenge now. Not you. All the raves.
Oh, okay. Well,
I need y'all's
Are
help.
you ready to start the challenge? Yes. Waiting for rain. When are we? No, I'm kidding.
yes. Okay, there we go. Sorry.
No, I was kidding.
I was trying to break a rock and then Mona was doing a thing, so then I couldn't.
Child
break the
tested
rock.
your observation. Try to keep
Okay,
count.
okay.
Uh-oh.
Observation. Okay,
Counting is
focus, guys.
hard.
Focus. If there's 3 separate things, we should
1,
do...
2,
Okay.
3, 4
Yellow.
turtles.
Oh, hard.
Hold
Oh
on.
no, it's
5, 6,
no, it's about
7,
the
8.
symbols. Star, blue,
I'm not gonna remember the
square.
shapes and symbols, but there
Blue
was like 8
square.
turtles.
Oh shit, no.
Oh my god. Just know Pacha will love this challenge. Yes, but it's not over yet.
Probably 7.
How many of us did you see?
It was
At least
a
someone
lot.
was counting. I was looking at the.
I
symbols.
said 8,
I
but
thought
there's
there was a pattern.
7.
Oh, let's just... Oh, 777. Guess we're lucky.
Oh.
It's not right.
Yes, let's see it again.
What?
It was 4 because there's an orange turtle. I guess
We
that
have to count.
it's not. I think they're all the same turtle. I think there's only 4 of them. I think that's just the different colors.
Oh,
I think the
different colors.
symbols.
5
I think
then.
the symbols represent
5
something
different
else.
colors.
5.
Yeah. And if not, it's 6. But I think it's...
Yeah, it's 5.
5.
I see.
Why did you skip?
Rain
Rain
skipped.
I didn't skip. It was because Mona was already in dialogue.
Oh,
Aww.
we were wrong again?
No, 5.
No, we were wrong again.
I got 5. What?
Am I stuck, maybe? You know, because no,
I think Rain's stuck.
Mona says the same thing. I'm talking to the little guys. I didn't skip it though.
That's weird. And now we're waiting on your response.
Yeah, now it says skipped again.
And now it's a skip, yeah. But
Rain's the
you had
culprit.
a correct answer with 5?
Yeah.
What?
Alright.
So
yeah, I
did
just
we.
went through the whole cutscene. I don't know. I think you can continue because now I'm just waiting on you to continue.
Okay, I guess we'll do 5 again. I hope it doesn't say skip for you again, though.
I hope not.
We'll let her go first. We'll let her go first.
Okay.
I'm sitting on a pause waiting for a host to continue.
Really?
What?
So you're not even
Oh,
like
this
playing. Okay, then we'll say later.
Yeah.
We'll hit 5, but then we'll say later.
You need to agree with your friend.
Come back later.
Okay, and now? Let's see.
You should back all the
Now
way
it's a
out.
pause for me too. Oh, did you do the later thing before? Are you back now?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can try
Okay,
it.
let's try again.
Oh, we don't have to anymore. It opened up
Yeah,
over
we
here,
do.
guys.
Are you ready to start the challenge?
What? No. I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. No, I can't inspect it.
What?
Yes. Okay. Now it says it's waiting on you guys.
You can't inspect it, Rain?
No.
That's weird. We both can. It seems like it's kind of like bugged for you.
Alright, hold on.
Wait, what if
It
we go
doesn't
in a
like
different
rain.
room
Thank you,
first?
Matthew.
Try switching the room for a bit.
Oh, yeah. Here, let's go down here.
Yeah, I just did.
Yeah, I know. Mono didn't, though.
Oh yeah. And then no? Wait,
Because
try
I
it with
just
the
went
pine
through it.
cone in your hand.
I don't have a pine cone in my hand anymore.
Oh, well, then we give you one if we can.
Yeah, you can drop them. I just don't remember how.
Here you go. I'll drop. Here you go. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
Still can't.
Okay, so
Do
it's
you
bugged.
have this little thing over here to the right, though? Is there an
Nope.
opening over here to you?
Nope.
No.
Oh.
Shit, we bugged it. we do?
Oh god, what's the cave ID?
Let me see if I can.
See, I think we're supposed to have all 3 items before we can do this.
Oh, wait, no. You guys go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Go ahead and do the thing, and then I'll get the cave ID from you guys after. So you guys can unlock
smart.
it.
Yeah. Smart. So I guess you can just play this with anyone? Like at random times and then they can join, or is it always us 3 for this? No, it shouldn't matter, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. I think you can just join as long as you have the cave ID.
That they had those symbols was so confusing. I thought that was gonna
But I think the symbols were to help differentiate
like the different
ones.
yeah.
Achievement unlocked.
We did it! We'll be adult Totans in no time. Oh, sorry. Getting so many achievements.
Right? Oh, Pidgeotto!
Mono's now just clicking as well. She's not reading anymore.
So
That's okay.
Good luck to the trellis!
Alright.
I love the pink one. Okay, it's opening! Okay, you need the ID?
waiting for Momo.
Oh wait, almost forgot. More challenges await through the door. I'm stuck in a cutscene. Look at that. Okay, escape. Can I copy it? No, it's U0 KJ PN.
Oh, PM?
Yeah.
Okay. I was typing it in somewhere else.
Oh, I can copy it. What?
That's okay. I got it.
It says it's getting late too. We're probably gonna die.
I'm coming. A flintstone. Oh, that's cute. Flintstone. Me waiting for Rain to join. Oh my god, we can bug the system so hard that one walks towards the cave.
Uh-oh, we just passed out.
Oh
Really?
no. Is it nighttime?
No, it says waiting for joining players for me.
Yeah, it got real late. I passed out too.
I'm stuck on waiting on
As
you.
I joined.
We went brrrr, little Z's went above our heads too. We're testing the system.
Fuck the system.
Oh no.
We broke it.
Black screen with the cursor.
Ours just says waiting on rain.
Yeah.
Alright. Force close this game.
Oh, why is Rain's game being difficult?
Sorry guys.
Get with the program, Rain. Why'd you have to find all the bugs? You should have been here when we were beta testing.
Right?
Pidgeotto has been called.
Alright, now it's just waiting on Mono's.
Yeah, pause for host. No, wait, no, I'm paused, waiting for host to continue.
I'm waiting for
Waiting
Momo.
for you.
Oh, for fuck's sake, and I can't do any. Oh my.
Well, since I'm the save file, I guess she has to leave. I don't know.
Nope, doesn't work either. What the hell?
Oh no.
Oh, we broke it. We broke the game. Because I think you're not supposed to be able to do that part of the game until you have all 3 items. I think you have to have the pomegranate, the pine cone, and the whatever. I think we broke it because we didn't. You're really supposed to have all 3. And just the pine cone was working for some reason. Yes, Sixter, welcome.
Just that way.
It's updating for me now. What the hell?
What? Oh, the game.
You didn't contribute.
Yeah, there's a patch. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, they probably did.
Oh. Yeah.
I can exit out.
Patched, like, a minute
I'll
ago.
exit out too, let it patch and take a stretch break.
Yeah, it was a quick patch because it patched like immediately.
We're building a bridge too.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Oh, I'll take PP.
So I have to wait till this bridge scene stops. Breaking the game day one sounds normal? Yeah. Breaking it.
I have to wait for you to be in the same version, because when we started, we were in 1.0.1.
Yep.
We're at
Yep.
1.0.2. Already patching the game.
Okay, be right back.
We'll need 5 wood when I restart. Okay, and then I'm going to exit the game? How do I exit? Good question. There it is. Exit to desktop. Yeah, I gotta exit so we can do the update. If it'll let me. Thinking about it. There we go. Downloading. Woof! That was a quick update though. That was a super quick update. But I'm gonna step to the ladies' room, guys. I'll be right back. Sixer! Welcome to the stream! Welcome, welcome, welcome! I'll be back. There. I'm back. Hope you don't soft lock yourself. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Did it launch, Turtle? I have view details about the launch message. Okay, copy. Not till 5 UTM? Okay. You gonna play Star Rail 2, Sixer? 9 PM Central. It's another hour. My bedtime, so I'm not gonna play it tonight. Turtle, you need to sleep. Sleep, Turtle.
Turtle does need to sleep. I did not get that, thing either. I didn't get your cave ID before you.
I pasted it. I sent it to you.
Oh, in the DMs. Got it.
I I slid into your DMs while you were away. I'm quick like that. I'm quick like that. I always sleep late on lunch. Oh, that's right, he needs stone, so. No! Rain's breaking it! Okay, so I think
Water plants.
I'm building bridges.
Yeah.
Shelter for the animals. Yay! He's begun working on the idea for the shelter. I always sleep late on launch game. Oh, it's available. They did it early. See? I told you I got a notification. I was like 10 minutes ago it was available.
Hey, Ma.
Star Rails available.
Oh, really?
Yup. Yup. 10 minutes ago.
So does that mean we're gonna be playing tonight?
No!
Is
I gotta go to bed in an hour. I start up Star Rail. I'm never gonna go to bed.
Is it okay if I do the same, guys?
No, I sent it to you in your DMs while you were away.
Shit. Hopefully the old one doesn't work.
You and Rain with the DMs. I don't know. Oh.
So I guess it changes every time, but you have the save file.
Develop idea like thinks he can help us get more seeds. Develop an idea with him? How do I develop an idea? What's his name?
I got it.
Plant nursery. Ooh.
So did we get the thing or no?
We did all kinds of things. They did it early. It'll be fine. I'll be far ahead.
Turtle is already going in.
We got
Yes.
No,
He's gonna play all night. He's not sleeping tonight.
Watch, he'll be maxed out.
What if Turtle's like, it's shit?
Welcome, yo! Welcome, Meow Guard. Welcome to the stream.
I'm here. Don't fear. Igor.
Ah. We'll have it cleared in no
Learn how
time.
to go. It needs 2 days to finish. Alright.
What?
Animal
Did they
friendly.
seal it off?
It's a comfortable place to live. Okay, you did all that.
What?
Did they seal off the mountain? No, that's a different path. Okay, I was kind of
No,
confused.
Are we going back to the mountain?
Kim!
Okay.
Maybe we don't have to.
You guys probably don't have to, other than Momo has the plus there, probably. But she can do whatever she wants.
I don't think we need to. So
Rawr!
we could always, we could go to the cave
Yeah.
and go through that right thing now.
Yeah, I want to see what's there.
I got some seeds.
That's rude, meow.
Burning our booties.
I played my flute for you.
Burning Lady Baron's booty.
Through the mount. Wait, was the crops? Were the crops watered already?
Yeah, Rain watered the crops.
GG Rain.
She rained on them.
Already did.
Nice
Rain
roar,
over rain.
Kimono. Roar! Roar.
Or
Right.
Anya, ooh, you're so wonderful.
Hi.
Oh, shut up now.
What are those? I can't pick them up. I don't have any room in my inventory. How do I drop crap? Drop. Drop.
Through the mountain.
Drop. I want the raspberries.
No, we're going up, but we need to be there. Oh, wait, but that's what you meant. We don't need to be there now, all three, because we already did the thing.
There's another mushroom.
I might be a bit slow. Derp, derp.
Yay! I picked raspberry.
So good to see you, yeah.
Oh, hi, Puddles. Oh.
See if the game still lets us in the secret hidey hole, because I don't know if we were supposed to be in there yet. But yeah, it's gonna let us. Last time it made us wait until we got to the safari and got the coconuts before we could go through there.
I wonder if it just allows the different offerings now.
Maybe it only needs one. Maybe it might be separate challenges. I don't know. Couple streams. But I'm sure it all reset because it was beta. I don't know if you can tell.
I don't know if it's a different install file or not.
I don't know. Good question. It was a different key, so yeah, probably. They sent you a different key from the beta.
Well, if it's still there, or does it disappear? Sure.
True. I don't know. I'm sure we can look at my hours. I just haven't looked in Steam yet.
Two can walk through this door. Our shoulders don't get stuck. That's good, right, Rain?
Right? Yep.
Printing with ideas on how to grow plants for their seeds. Ignorant needs. IROC needs 2 days to finish. 2 days to finish. Falling from across the river, and the clan is helping build a bridge. Okay. Everybody's busy building things. We're doing good. We're just in production mode. Yup.
I forget to change my thing.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's another door.
And not just the.
So good to see you too, right? Missed you, man.
Ooh, ore.
Flint. You get to make tools later.
Oh, there's a new glyph. Fishies.
Fishies. So I guess if you donate fishies.
Ooh, what's this? This power is still out of reach.
Yeah, it's an owl and you fly. Do you?
Yeah,
Go donate it.
It's
Let's go donate it then.
Thing, no, that's fine. The hammer.
Oh, look, I opened the door.
What
Did
door?
you? You opened the door.
I think Rain has like the cheat codes.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
The cave's much more expansive than it used to be.
It's dark here though. Torch.
Ooh, turtle hidey hole. Oh, different kinds of rocks. We don't have tools for these,
there
yet,
you
do we?
go.
Oh yeah, we do.
That's really cool.
Yeah, the cave was not this expansive before.
I do wonder what these are. Oh, now we could go.
Oh, this is so much nicer. We're all gonna be able to get tools so much faster. Because I think it takes like 25 or something, or 30, I don't know.
We can fast travel with the things. With the little tunnel things.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Another drawing.
This one. This one.
Uh-huh.
And it says forest or glyph totem totem.
Cool. Really long week. I feel like I've lived this week twice. Oh no! I'm so glad you made it tonight, though.
Which is that one?
Can't go that way yet.
Potatoes?
Potatoes. like root vegetables.
Oh, I'm out of stamina.
Did someone look at this one? Because I can't. It just says a tree. And... Oh, wait, maybe we can cut this. Oh, we need a stronger. We need the axe for this.
Can I eat anything?
I want to try this, though.
Oh, we can't.
How do I eat stuff? I forget. Oh, there it is. Eat.
Oh my god, that's so cute! Do it! You need to use the shortcut and go to the totem thing.
What?
It is so adorable. Go to the one I showed you.
The
with
turtle!
the
He just
door.
went in
Yeah.
the door.
It's adorable.
Where's the totem?
Okay, I got the
See you
thing.
guys tomorrow. No, turtle, don't leave!
Wait, it doesn't
That's
work.
so cute.
I don't think we have to offer to that one. I think we have to find the other one to offer to.
Oh. What was the other door we found earlier? Was it here? There was somewhere else where Mono and I wanted to go.
Well, maybe I'm gonna go over here and dig. Oh, I don't have any stamina though, but maybe over here. I don't know. Maybe it's the opposite direction.
Because I think we changed direction when rain went like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a. I think there might be one on the left if y'all dig, but.
Oh yeah, but we need something for it because it says we don't. This power is still out of reach. Which
No, over here.
Where?
Like.
Where?
But I don't have any stamina.
Wait, where?
Eat.
Oh, there's a door on the bottom left as well.
I think I'm eating
so they're not
poisonous
safe on the
mushrooms.
bottom left. No, never mind. That's the same. I'm being
What?
an idiot.
What?
So why can't we? I wonder where
They
the
can
other-
make it. I don't even know where you guys went.
I'm back. Upstairs, like the room we just went. The torch comes in handy for this one. Just gonna look at that room, see if we missed anything. Hold on to that torch. Yay. Thanks, Rella. I'm afraid of the dark.
I'm excited for KimonoKat Star Rail, right? That's tomorrow. It started just now, though.
I might get a head start later.
Yeah, I know you will. You guys are gonna be up all night, and I'm gonna be out at night going, I can't sleep, I wanna play games! Oh.
Where do we make like the axes and stuff?
In town, there's a person on a tent in the bottom
Oh,
left.
it's gonna be dark, so we need to go back.
Oh, yeah.
We could use this thing as well and say forest. I think it brings us
Oh.
to the main entrance. Oh, I love this. I
That's
love
so
the fast
cool.
travel lane. Oh, that's so adorable. Oh yeah, we're at the main entrance now.
Forest. Don't play, but I'm excited to see it. Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. I had people disappointed I wasn't playing Genshin tonight, too. Like, oh,
Shortcut Mono.
it did.
No, I'm just reminding because you weren't used to it.
Oh,
before.
yeah, this one. Yeah, this didn't exist before. You have no idea how great this is. This was not a
I mean,
thing.
in case you would automatically run around it. It's like, use shortcut.
I know. We had to run all the way back down the hill in my day. Oh, ladders have no idea how easy you have it.
Not make it.
You youngsters.
Mona always goes to the wrong place.
No, we're donating.
Oh.
Yeah, I was trying anyway.
I didn't
There.
feel like I had enough time.
I have 60 rock, but I have a feeling it's
Mm.
gonna come in handy soon.
I'm just gonna like, yeah, go to bed and just like hanging on to it. I think picked.
I don't
think
think,
so.
there was a bad how do you say?
I think those
penalty,
flowers need picked.
No, I already harvested them. They're beans. Not
There's Jiggly Physics. 11 out of 10 game already. They didn't take it away. Are you
Yeah.
happy?
all we need in life.
Oh god.
Did
Oh.
you leave
I did
Stardew?
not.
Roots of Pacha Stardew.
Booby wiggles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited to play that tomorrow, but I'm gonna wait. Or I'll be up all night, and I can't. I barely slept last night.
Oh, how come?
I just couldn't sleep. I got like 4 hours. I haven't been sleeping this week. I was doing really good with my sleep too, but now like my whole neck's tight, my arms tight,
Yeah.
my shoulders tight. I'm dying.
Yeah, I don't think that's how that works.
We can build our own house.
You really gotta crawl it? Yeah, don't build your house yet. It just wastes resources.
But I want to live with you guys.
Exactly. Live together. Save resources. Sorry to hear that. It's
I want
okay.
my pet.
Mom, Rain, you need to pick those flowers.
I know. I'm working on it.
Harvest. You're harvesting goo.
But these are beans, so I don't have to. They're just. I already picked 3 here. So.
This is some tough grass.
There. My sister is on Star Rail too. I believe it. So jolly.
I'm kind of like the name of the game is kind of duality for me because of the rail part.
Yeah, well, it's a train in space.
Yeah. Like a
It's a space train.
Now it makes sense. Didn't know that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet ruined me.
If you look in my Discord under Star Rail next to the Genshin channel, you'll see the train. If you scroll up, you'll see what the space train looks like.
I got you some tomato seed rain.
It looks like a rocket, but it's a train. Train rocket.
Rocket? No.
Guys, we can paint the things.
What? How?
Found
paint the
something
chest.
new.
So like the little ribbon, you just right click them instead of left.
Found citronella.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I don't even know. I don't even have tools yet. I want tools.
Yeah.
So I made the black one the resources, and the green one is our food.
Yeah.
I befriended a
Yeah, my
dog.
Momo doesn't have a chest yet, though.
Cause I just put food and junk in y'all's 2 chests.
Yeah, no, but we got it through the game, so I wonder if you could still like get.
I haven't done the marble thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but she's not there anymore, so I wonder how that works. Like, she
Mm-hmm.
was sitting there for us when we did it.
I don't even know where there was, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, the fishy one.
I think we can make tools yet because the lady isn't there. Make tools for me, lady.
Wait, how do we build?
Aha!
Where's the bridge? Oh, in this big hut, we need like. Oh, this is like a
Oh.
community center.
Okay.
Any grain, any fish, any fat, and then we make like a big.
Okay.
Big dish. Did you see that, guys?
Yeah, you cook.
No, it's like
Bite?
like the community center kind of in Stardew. But
What?
yeah, if you go where I am, and to, like where the donation chest is, and then go inside the building.
Yeah, you go in there. There's like a place you can cook on the right.
Yeah, but I think it's something that's like a goal thing. To your right, Rain. Where I am. If you click this fire pit, it says any grain, any harvest, any fish, stuff like that. Any vegetable.
Oh, you're in the pot.
Oh, no, listen.
Cookie!
Am I wrong? I'm not
Oh.
sure.
Oh yeah. So if you put in the thing,
You only bite with consent! Exclamation point!
Oh, you can learn dishes.
Oh.
Damn it. Okay, then
Yeah.
what do I do with everyone?
No, that's okay. You could have changed it. I couldn't be wrong.
Hey, what's this thing? Smoker. Oh. So did one of us get the smoker and one of us got the drying rack?
Hmm.
Is that what happened? Oh. Uh-huh.
Hmm. I'm gonna make a flint hammer. Takes 15 wood, 30 flint, and 15 fiber.
I want that too. Porcupine. Wait, no, but we'll do the thing first. Porcupine.
Let's see.
Which tent was it, Mono?
Right below our house. If you go like straight down from our house, you'll see her making tools.
Yes, I see. Thanks. You tools. Flint axe, flint hammer, water bucket. I don't have enough stuff. I need flint. I only have 15. Shit.
There's 14 in this chest in here. But I think you need 30 though.
No, 15 for one of them.
Sneedy, is that lemon drop? No, is that quote the bot says? The cookie consent Kimono. I don't know. I don't remember a quote that says that. Doesn't mean there isn't.
I only bite with consent is the bite command.
Mono, what did you make? Did you make the hammer or the axe?
The hammer.
Huh?
Hammer.
You got the hammer? Okay, I'll make the axe. So we'll have one of both.
Mm-hmm. You can chop down trees, I think.
Contributions. What? Contributions 100, it says.
Oh, really? Okay, well, we gotta
How does that work?
go drop all those rocks we have in there.
Tribute things so we can get money.
Drop those bazillion rocks we have in there.
Yeah. I have them in my inventory. So if we have the axe, we can go back to the cave to do the thing. Because there was one that was blocked by vines.
Oh.
Should I split the rocks in half?
Maybe?
Donate 120.
That's Momoro. Cool. I like this song. It's one of my new favorites right now. Pokemon Go.
Oh shit.
Sneasel has been caught by Meow, Lady, and Cat.
Yeah. Because it doesn't count yet. Okay, tomorrow morning, making an axe.
I'm gonna catch fish.
Yeah, I'm gonna join you.
I'm harvesting oregano. I'm glad there's so much more oregano than before.
Wait, what should be ready tomorrow? The bread should be ready tomorrow.
Yeah. Bridge will be ready.
The clan has a long way to go. Okay. Okay, lady. Well, not you, lady. Great.
Why are there so many porcupines?
I don't know. You always had it, but it was at 3 strikes.
Porcupines.
Wow, I thought it was a...
Take the secret path.
It actually shows you what it is after a while. After like the first part, I think.
Yeah.
And what is that? We can sing to the bunnies.
porcupines.
Well, the bunnies. Guessing we can have pet bunnies. That's we didn't have bunnies before.
I've already befriended 2 bunnies.
Nice.
And a boar.
You can't ride them though. That's the only bad thing. You can ride the other animals. They make you go faster.
Ooh, that's cool. You can get the newmies.
Zoom zoom. You ready? Okay.
I got like the hammerfish in the forest. Maybe that's why, because this is like a river.
You get a bunny, you need to name it Thumper.
Oh, Thumper. Or did you say Humper?
No! I did not.
I thought I misheard that one.
I
Sorry.
found parsley.
Funny name though.
Forests are harder to find. Or catch. Oh!
New
I got a
fish.
Yeah.
New fish.
Getting dark again.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I'm at a pond where they have 4 bars.
I just had one. That was the cabeza.
That's also 4?
Yeah. Oh, I got a
No
I got a
fish.
3.
Please don't make me do the move away again. I had to say it, didn't
I hate it when
I? I got a tic tac. That's adorable.
Tac? Is that like a TikTok? But it's a tic tac.
Feeling that I'm gonna be passed out. It doesn't actually matter though, right? Passing out or on the stamina. I didn't check. Does it do stuff for your stamina? Why are you not trusting me, bitches?
They don't want it. They don't want the pets. Ah.
I got 1 heart. Yay. I got 1 heart with the wolfies.
Nice.
I'm coming home, coming home.
Stole some of these fish off the drying rack.
Should we wait? We shouldn't do the wait. Should we? We need a fresh fish, right? Or do we?
Probably, if it said contribute fresh fish, then that's different than catching them.
Sure, if you already did the thing.
I did it before where we had to have 3.
Okay, then.
If you're looking at the past things, you might be looking at the past stuff.
coming home.
Hmm?
I'm coming home.
Okay. I'm already tucked in. It's getting late. I guess that's our cue. It's getting late, and then you just have to get your butt over to the house. That's Momoro. Oh yes, hi meow. Sorry, I was looking at chat. 5 minutes later.
Fine. Stop put things away.
Oh, now he's BRB. Or he's already back. I'm not sure. No poking vulture.
Iron Vulture, welcome.
Ooh.
I love how
Pokes
I keep picking
Momo.
bed to sleep.
Oh.
He's
Of the
always
4.
poking me.
Oh no, I forgot about my cereal. Oh.
Pokes Momo.
Prosperity. You donated to Sarah?
One of them I caught too.
Yes, broken. Yeah. Okay, patting is fine.
Pat's head.
God.
Licks.
Turtle soup.
You licked a
I'm eating
turtle.
Turtle soup tonight.
Turtle soup.
Derp, derp. The bridge is finished. We can go to the mighty jungle.
Yeah.
How is you, Vulture?
Well, they give us a choice, but to go see the bridge.
Yeah.
I see you brought Mayo, Rain, and Momo. Let's get going. I don't know where we're going.
Mayo.
The jungle. Ooh. Will there be monkeys? I know.
We're calling her Mayo from now on. You're a con.
My name is Mayo. It's not Meow. 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 It's Mayo Meow.
What isn't it? M-O-A? No, you did M-A-O. I'm not sure.
It feels heartbroken. Ooh, the air feels heartbroken. Oh dang. Pacha's voice is in these pictures. I should meditate on them. Derp derps.
Guess we're gonna meditate now.
Yeah.
Talking about my meditation.
Tired and sad, Pacha shook the earth to show what could be achieved by working together. The earthquake. It must be the one that locked us in this land. And Pacha gives you an ancient totem, and we this structure. It has to be related. She must be asking for our aid. Show what can be achieved together. It's an egg. It's a tree. I don't know. It's a seed.
I got some seeds.
Nice. Flower seeds.
Inspect. Ooh, we have to donate things. Share with animals. Prophecies realized. Farming knowledge. One with the wild. 3 or 4 prophecies realized. Food. Oh, this is like
So
your
this is
to-do
our
list.
thing.
This is your community center to-do list. Yeah. Open to assign? You can assign it to people?
Oh, that's nice. It's
Mm.
warm to the touch. Have you tried? No, Vuak, I haven't. I don't want to touch it. Ew.
Wait, what?
Yeah, talk to him.
Oh my god.
Pew, pew, pew.
I'm gonna assign what to.
I don't know. It's not letting me really assign anything, even though that's what the word said. I think it's just literally like a check-off achievement list. What is that? A goat? Goat with thumbs up. Rain is looking at the pyramid.
Vulture follows a streamer that have like goats 24/7. Like a little goat farm.
New. Talk to Crowley. New. Talk to Acre. Talk to Ira. We gotta go talk to everybody.
Got you. The plants they grew took a more resilient shape. It is yet to happen.
Oh god, it's blocked.
These are all prophecies, though. We don't have to donate to it, do we?
No,
No.
we just have to do the thing.
use it
That's
for
just like
use
your
more.
goals.
Yeah. Meowcard hugs himself. Okay. Fine. You don't want to hug me? Fine.
It's kind of empty. Come here.
She made my tool, Momo. It's your turn.
Okay, I'm coming.
Alright, I have to take kitty break.
Okay.
She has come demanding attention, so.
I'm stuck. Who opened this part?
This is different, goat one, but yes, Momo is right. One goat streamer I follow has 23 little goat babies right now. So fuzzy and cute. Oh my gosh.
It can be really cute, yeah.
Now that I can finally harvest our stuff.
Oh.
Or at least
Oh,
some
by
of
the
it.
way, if any of you have Prime, there's a
Flash
show. Hmm?
Wait, no. You're talking about a show. I thought
No, it's a show. It's a series from
Where the heck am I supposed to put this thing?
something from the car show.
Sure.
Jeremy James? No, is it James? James?
I don't know.
Well, anyway. From Top Gear.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
can't put it here.
And he decided to become a farmer, and they made a show of it.
Interesting.
Pretty funny. Yeah.
What the heck?
You might like that vulture if you have Prime still.
Yeah. I use Dalton's Prime account. So that's how I get all my Prime Primo gems and stuff on Kitchen.
Right.
Because he doesn't use it, so.
Meow.
He
wait,
uses his
not
Prime
that bad.
subs, so I have to pay for any subs, but.
That's a good deal.
So, like, any games that I play and he doesn't, I get the gear from it.
Talking about Subby's tongue.
What? Thank you so much, Momo. Thank you for the sub for 7 months. And we thought Momo was gonna say, and if you got Prime sub for Cat for free. Then she talked about a show instead. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah, but then I did this up myself.
Finish the idea, yay!
Yeah, I finished 2 ideas. We get a nursery and an animal thingamajiggy for our animals.
Yay!
Ooh. Wait,
We have
Mona,
a
what did
plant
you
nursery.
what did you just build?
A nursery is being built, and
Ooh.
a plant thingy. I mean an animal thingamajiggy.
Cool.
Is this the plant thing or the animal thing?
The one up top is the animal thing.
Oh, what?
Tamed animals can be invited to live in your field once they're fully attuned. So yeah, and ideally you want to tame rideable ones first, but you don't have to.
Well, I didn't tame rideable ones.
You tamed bunnies. I don't think we can ride the bunnies, Momo.
No,
I mean,
but
Rain,
you
that's
can
cruel.
Can we ride the wolves though?
I don't know. I know you can ride ostriches and antelopes and boars and maybe the wolves. I don't know. They're new. Boop. What?
Yeah, vulture. I'm sorry. I didn't tell you out. But you probably
Gotta go have fun. Thank you, Tank. Alright, where's the tomatoes? Tomatoes.
Wait, tomatoes?
No, it's yum.
Even with the moving away, still a better fishing system than started. 100%. For me, at least.
Yeah, because you're catching up with your hands, not with the.
Oops, the Momo. Momo, you got booped.
What?
Look at all the
You
boops.
dare boop me?
How
Boop.
rude.
I booped the
Don't
bot. Booped Meowguard.
Hey.
Splashed myself.
A new record for a Tic Tac.
This is Meowguard. Hugs myself. Yay. Licks racing tank. Good thing you left. Burnt my own butt. I stood too close to the campfire.
As you should.
There, that's for Meow.
What's down here?
Hello, Rookie. Damn it, Catchler. Start trusting me, bitch.
Pet my friends. I'll pet my bunny friends. I'm friends with 3 of them, so
She woofed at me.
I'm friends with both the black ones.
I befriended a person and I'm working on it because they woofed at me. Lighting your... What? Lighting your farts will do that? Oh my god.
Oh, God.
Oh. Fairly rude. Lemon, hi! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Roots of Pacha.
Hey, I found a rock with the symbol
Then-
from the cave.
The Stardew-esque game that you're gonna be hooked on next.
Oh,
Just saying.
okay. Raspberry is gonna be moving in when Curl's done.
Okay. Building it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna invite Raspberry. And then where's Chalky? I think Chalky is one of these guys.
So you named them in advance? I didn't know you could do that. That's new.
Once you're tuned to them once, you can rename them.
I don't think you could name them before.
Oh no, is Chalky this one? Is this the one named Chalky?
Hey,
Yes.
look at this one. It has spots.
Lemon. Understand.
Let's see. Oh no. Yay!
Faster than running around. Huh?
Alright.
See where Akka is. There he is.
I don't want to play music. I want to give it things. Says I was gonna say I've been watching for 2 minutes and already won it, right? I played it during the beta, but it's just now come out today. But it's basically Cave People meets Stardew Valley. But you can do ostrich races.
Damn it, Akka is asleep.
Once you get ostriches, you can race each other.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's got some cool stuff. And you can tame different animals to ride. So. What? Oh my gosh, you get a picture of that? Lighting. Oh my god. Oh, that's a water hose. I was gonna say, what is that?
Close enough to lighting a fart.
Yep. Potato
Yeah.
seeds. I keep getting us
It's
all the
about
seeds.
farts. Roast
And they're
fish.
annoying. Ooh, ostrich races? Yeah. Ostriches are my favorite to ride. to put out the fire? Oh. Did you get your tool made? Yeah.
What's getting
I was
like
already doing contributions. And then just wait. Yeah, no, and then just wait. Wait till
I
Mom
know.
finish.
I know.
What?
It's so confusing. We go into our little cave hut tent, and we go in our little sleeping bags made of buffalo.
Stretch that way.
Why does it say when you want to sleep for the day? Shouldn't it say night?
Probably.
No.
Look, we made almost 200 contributions that time.
Yeah.
Our clan's rich.
We're getting there.
Put the
Oh,
fire out!
As many contributions as we've been given them, we're not that rich.
Alright, one more day and then I sleep. Sleeps. This
Right.
work was hard
Oh,
today.
X is finished. We could go to the cave
Yeah,
to
we'll
check
go
out
get
the
your.
root things.
There's crops for rain. Let's see.
Wait,
Yay, I'll get them here in a second.
I have to wait to pick up the axe though, till she wakes up.
Till she shows up, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get like bonuses for picking them, or do they just grow faster?
They just grow faster. As far as I know.
I talked to any root.
Definitely heard there's craps for rain. That goes with the fiery farts. Oh, jeez.
We need roots or plant fiber.
I couldn't tell if there was plants there or if that was just dirt.
Yeah, I planted back there too. Hurry up, bro.
J Hope. Loka wants to try some things to see if we could ride on the backs of animals. Yes! She wants racing. She wants us to ride on the backs of some animals.
Okay, I got my axe, guys.
Yeah.
Alright, now I
Good
just
job.
need a thing.
Now it's your turn to go get a tool. Yeah.
Do we have enough
She's
flint? I don't
she's
think
by the
so.
campfire. By the
We
way.
only have enough flint for another axe. We need 2 more or we need a lot more for another hammer. But I guess we don't need 2 hammers. We can leave the hammer in the chest, for example.
I need roots. Where do we get roots from?
We could probably just wait for it. Roots.
3 roots and plant
yeah.
fiber.
Don't we use the hammer only for building in the village?
No, actually.
Roots. I don't know. Do I get roots by chopping down trees? I bet they're in the caves and we have to like chop down vines or something.
Oh, maybe.
But I don't remember seeing roots in the old game either. I think this is too far down. Yeah. This is the other path, I think. They're still working on. You guys work too hard. I don't even know what that's in that area.
I don't know. They're working to unlock it though.
Yeah, and then the other one I think we go do ourselves if we all meet up together. It unlocks the prairie. But I forget. I think we just had to all be there at the same time with an axe.
Siege.
Maybe we have to have an axe first.
Where there are seeds.
I'm gonna go see if I can find some. What do you look like? Beep.
Oh, I got a wild boar for the clam.
Nice.
Hey, did you invite Chalky?
Yeah, we can't yet.
Oh yeah, we have to wait. Was it Chalky? Yeah, it was.
What? You want
Hmm.
to the caves?
Mm-hmm. Does Rain need flint?
Oh, I see a different mushroom.
Wild not to appear.
I got a brown mushroom. That's new. I'm gonna use the shortcut. Ooh, there's a lot of flint.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Ooh,
New fish.
yeah.
I thought I hit poke catch on the knock too. There it goes.
Okay, I cut the entrance, guys. Do I dare go in? I dare.
Yeah? What
See
entrance?
it is. In the caves.
Oh,
What
you gotta.
Yeah, it's the new totem thing.
Oh.
The fisher thing.
Cool. So I just need a fish.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't have one. Mono can bring one or someone
have a
can fish
fish.
it.
I've already fished.
I don't
do
think we
think
all
we
need a
need
fish.
to
I think
do
only
it.
one of us needed it.
Okay, Mono just has to show up.
Mono needs to have show up, yep.
I'm trying if I can figure out where it is.
The caves.
I'm in the caves.
Oh, then just go through the roots. Wait, I'll come back. You'll see. I cut like vines here. Yeah, there you are. I see you.
Did you get roots? Did you collect roots when you cut the vines?
No, it's hardwood.
Oh, dang it. Because we need roots.
Where's Rain?
I don't know.
Well, I collected some flint so you can get a tool too.
Yep. That's what I'm doing.
I didn't take the fast way.
Oh, this is where it goes. Oh,
you have to
spooky.
Yeah, there we go. This way.
But there's flint.
I know. But we need to do this before you faint.
Fish on.
Sleep after.
Come on.
If
Let's see
we're
if we can
gonna
break
struggle
the
with
game
this
again.
test again, then here we are.
You can see the puzzle over there to the right, too.
Wait
The
a
light
minute.
puzzle.
I think this has to be contributed to all of them first.
Oh. Inspect. No, we need fish. It's just fish. It needed the middle one. Did you have the fish?
Fish. I has no fish.
Rain has the fish. There she goes.
No.
Oh.
Oh, it lit up.
But it only accepts one offering.
Oh.
We need a pine cone and the other thing. What was the other thing?
I have a pine cone. No, this one's fish. This just one's fish. We need 3 fish, I guess. Oh, it has the symbols. Shit, yeah, this is the pine cone.
I don't know.
I'm gonna check
What is that
the
one?
was. I don't know. I need
I
to
don't
check
know
the
yet.
murals. I'm gonna check fast because I think it was the last one we had here on the right.
I didn't bring anything with. I feel bad.
It's a root vegetable.
Yep.
I don't have any
It was
vegetables.
veggies. Potatoes,
Anybody got
carrots,
vegetables?
or onions. Fuck.
Anybody got veggies on them?
No.
I just have a shroom.
No, I don't. I have rocks and wood.
Got it. It's gonna work.
No. I want the vegetables.
Did we have any ready-to-go vegetables?
I've got some rotting peppers in the fridge you can have.
Okay,
It
I'm
would
gonna
probably
try
accept them.
And do like a fast travel, but I don't think.
Yeah.
I can.
I can't believe none of us picked up a potato or anything on the way up the hill.
Nope. I picked up carrot seeds, but that don't help.
No.
Mm.
Seeds definitely don't help. I guess
Okay.
so.
I'm gonna go for pick something up.
Are they in the chest
Yes.
or in the,
Yeah.
contribution one?
In the chest.
A chest. Or contribution, probably. You could probably steal it out of either or.
I don't know if you guys contributed any vegetables today.
Probably not.
Then I go to the chest.
Because we're slackers.
Too bad the shortcut doesn't work both ways.
Right? And too bad we don't have rides yet. Because this would be a lot faster.
Maybe. Okay, I made it. I'm taking a carrot.
The bunnies.
I just want to grab one. One. Oh, how does that work? Minimum. Grab one. Oh,
I
fuck's
found tomato seeds. But see, you used to get wild vegetables from the wild plants too, not just seeds. You used to get wild vegetables and regulars.
sake. Okay, I'm taking.
You have to hit X, maybe?
It's already getting dark, so I have to make it fast. Gotta go fast. I just grabbed all of them because it didn't
Just
work.
chilling.
Wish there was a secret tunnel. Hey, you went down too.
I did.
Well, we're not gonna make it, are we?
Nope.
You better. I'm still in the cave waiting.
Follow the path, follow the path.
We're not gonna make it.
Well,
We,
we think. Oh, wrong way.
we have no sense of time or direction. Hoo-ha!
I mean, the path split up. It's not our fault. There we go. We found the path again.
I'm finding the path in the dark, and Momo
Yeah, I
has
was
the
gonna say,
light.
why aren't you using your torch?
Because I didn't want to switch fingers long enough to use a torch. Oh god, see?
You just have to hit tab.
I tried. I'm running. There it goes. Ah, I got stuck on a rock.
No, up. Come.
Just a little bit.
And then a pig got in my way. Murmur, potatoes, hee hee.
I took carrots. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. I hope.
Take the shortcut. We're taking the shortcut. Dun, dun.
Where's the shortcut? Oh, you take these things, it'll take you there?
Take the
Uh,
totem.
Owl? Lift the tome?
Oh shit!
Okay.
You should have done owl. Sorry, owl's better.
Ah!
It doesn't matter. It's one step. I'm just doing it again.
Okay. And do it again.
And then go through the roots and we're there.
I'm running.
Running. Donating. Accept your offering. Are you ready to start the challenge? Yes.
Yeah.
There they are. We made it, guys. I hope we don't fall asleep during the
Right?
Waiting
That'll
for
be
Meow.
hilarious.
Meow. Remember's a potato. I'm a potato. I'm a cutie patootie. Cutie patooter. Oh god.
Ooh.
It's the platform things.
Mm-hmm. We gotta turn all the lights.
Ooh, I love puzzles.
Twisted by the lights and pillars. But this gives us the ability to fly.
Ooh.
Nice spoiler.
Sorry, just in the cave.
It's fine. Just in the game.
Yeah.
Ooh. Hoot hoot.
Oh.
How do I land again though?
I don't know.
Oh, you have to go to a different thingy to land.
How did y'all do it? There, you had to just have to do it one at a
stand on the
time.
circle and then click
Oh, we
it.
were all different color owls. I'm a blue owl.
I'm a green one.
Yeah, like my color literally matches me.
Where am I supposed to go?
Yeah, you have to land on another circle thing.
Well, how do I do that?
Click on the circle thing. Click on it.
Click on what?
The circle. The one that made you fly also makes you land.
Okay. In the exact same spot.
No, different spot.
Not for me.
I can use a different one.
Oh, you have to actually fly, like you, like...
Oh!
Oh, you didn't. Oh.
No, I wasn't using AWS. I wasn't doing the things and the stuff.
Okay, this one needs to be turned around, I think.
Down?
Or
Down or up?
I don't know. We need one here. We need one to this. So I'm gonna go. Wait, there's no one. I'm just following the pillars to see if we. Yeah, that's correct. What you just someone did. Yeah, Mono did
It
that.
just seemed like the right direction it needed to go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Down
We need this
here.
one in the middle as well.
Yeah, because we gotta do that thingy.
Hold on.
See if there's one here. Don't think so.
We're flying.
Oh my god, the
There's
flying in the
two
dark is
lights
scary.
going in.
Maybe this can go 3 ways.
Oh, no. Oh,
Yep,
that's
you did it.
Hey, we did it. A wise
yay,
light.
teamwork.
That's some fucking teamwork. It's through your observations of the world that
Okay,
my
just
light
gonna
was
break it this
prepared.
time.
This map to guide you in the caves.
Oh,
Ooh.
yay, cave map.
You're ready to use my power elsewhere. May I help you find what you seek? What do I seek?
Oh, that's cool.
Waiting for Momo.
Wait. Wait for what?
Power.
Dun, 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 dun. Ooh, that's cool.
Why did I fly?
What did you do?
I don't know. It wouldn't let me fly though.
I didn't click that. What?
Oh,
Hey,
It won't let me fly, but it'll let you guys fly. Where'd you
Be
go?
able to check what doors are in each room and which ones are open now.
There
Now
it
use that
goes.
Owl power. Oh, that's cool.
there you go, Mono.
So we need to go to the
Alright, come over to
Glyphodon
this one.
one. We need to go to the Glyphodon one because there is another tile there. If I remember correctly.
So can we just fly?
Uh,
No, we have to
I'm not sure.
leave.
Yeah.
We need to walk
I know
down
they-
and go to the Glyphodon. Oh, maybe you can make it.
We need to go home.
Yeah, I know. It's
We'll
late.
knock out. We'll knock out anyway. It's fine.
Yeah. We're gonna knock out anyway. It's fine. It's all
I
fine.
mean, there's no penalty, so I'm not scared of the knockout in this game. Like in Stardew, it would set you back quite a bit, but doesn't here. Where am I?
Going to the forest.
There it is.
Idiot. Here we are. Please don't make me fall asleep right now, because I just made it.
Yep, I made it just outside the cave.
I just
I could've
landed right
I could've
on the platform in there.
have took a nap in the cave.
Could've.
Hey, wait, green. So which one was green? The emo one. Yeah, I made it. I'm the emo Powerpuff Girl. What's your
Buttercup?
name again?
You didn't contribute today.
Buttercup.
The pink one was Blossom, and Bubbles was the blue
Right.
one.
I'm Buttercup.
Man, that's harsh. It's fun though. Rain's been taming bunny rabbits. We're gonna have pet bunnies.
You didn't contribute today.
Yeah, oh yeah. What does it say? Crowley has finished a building idea, but we need to quit. Yeah. We'll quit till next
I
time.
want to check the building for a second.
You wanna go look at it? Okay, we can go look at the
Just look
buildings.
at it.
Because we have a greenhouse too. It should be ready too.
Where?
Below.
This is the animal
Hey,
hut.
it's raining. Ooh.
Oh, this is
Set
cute.
my boar in there.
And then you come down here, and there's the he's still working on that. That is the greenhouse.
And this?
I think that's gonna be part of the greenhouse.
That's just part of the greenhouse, all that.
Cool.
Yay.
Love you guys. Glad I got to catch a little bit off the bed for me. Okay, good night. I'm gonna be right behind you.
Yeah.
Because I need sleep. I didn't sleep last night.
I kind of like that you can, Oh my god, I almost clicked destroy on the building. Oh, no, don't do it!
No.
Please don't.
Escape.
Are you trying to destroy these?
I talked to the guy and I was like, okay, manage buildings. And then I could do things. But
Okay, I put stuff in the
kinda
chest
nice
for you.
that you can move them.
I
and
was
that you
loved once.
can-
It was awful. Grumpy cat.
Wait, wasn't there a quest for hardwood or something? But that was a thing about the hardwood.
I put stuff in there for the flint in there.
Right. Oh yes.
For rain.
Yeah. How does the saving work? You just is it a manual save?
I tried that once. Not worth it.
I think it's like Stardew, where it saves at the end of the day.
Yeah, so anything we do now doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless we go to sleep real quick, and then it will matter.
But maybe calendar-wise, that's not smart. I didn't look at the calendar.
It's
yet.
probably not, but it's really not. You're supposed to maximize your day. And hi, welcome.
Let's just exit then.
WC. Okie dokie.
I'm not
The
really
warning
doing
star rail is really loud when you first open it.
Bye,
Did
guys.
you already exit the game?
She didn't even exit the game, and she started another game. She's still in this one too. Any good so far? Yes, it is. I played during the beta mode. It was really good. It's improved so much too. So much has changed because I put it down for a few months. It probably, I don't know, probably like 8 or 9 months, and it's so good. There's actually new stuff that I hadn't seen yet, and we're having a good time. So if you like Stardew Valley, you'll love it. That's what I would say.
Fishing is way better.
The fishing's way better. The cave is really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm already out of Pacha.
Yeah, same.
Because Mono
Okay.
said that she was gonna get off. So I got
I
off.
know. Yeah.
Don't go to sleep.
But you
Momo,
were
Don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep.
Exit to main menu. I didn't get in bed.
No, I just because the stream is probably behind. So I just
Yeah.
just saw you.
Yeah, I didn't get in bed. I didn't. I won't save the day. That way we can still finish this, have a full day. But yeah, I really like it, so
It's cool.
I hope you do too. Have you played? You haven't played any of it, but I can't wait until I get an ostrich to ride. I want to ride an ostrich.
I'm definitely gonna have to sit.
Don't go to sleep, clowns will eat you. Oh god. No, I really want to go play Star Rail,
No, don't do
but
it.
I'm not going to because I won't sleep
It's gonna
tonight.
need an update.
And I buffalo, yes, you can have buffaloes, you can have ostriches, you can have antelopes. There's bunnies, there's little cute bunnies you can have as pets.
Bunnies.
You can, of course, you know, make friends with people and romance them. You can build your own little house. You can, you know, all that stuff. Farming, fishing, mining. There's little puzzles and things to be solved and things you gotta collect and do community contribution. You don't need sleep. I do. It's kind of an important week. I say that every week, though. I think every week's been important lately. So, I don't know. I need sleep, unfortunately, if I can. There's too much excitement going on with 2 new games. I don't know if I can. This game looks so peaceful. I've been lurking. I follow you on Hive and saw you were live, so I hopped in. Oh, thank you, Squid. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for lurking. It is a very peaceful game. Tomorrow I will be streaming Star Rail, though. If you guys aren't familiar, it's like, if you're familiar with Genshin Impact, it is made by the same people, and it came out just like an hour ago. And this game came out today too, so I had to play this one as well because I was part of the beta community for this one, so I was excited to see where it's at. But yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm excited for Star Rail. Yes, me too, me too, me too. I'm gonna play it tomorrow. That's my stream tomorrow. So if you guys are around and lurking, come hang out, come talk Star Rail. I'm not gonna start, well, I might see if there's an update tonight, but I'm not gonna play it yet.
There is an update.
So,
Already?
I'll need to do that.
Yeah, for Star Rail. Yep.
Yeah, it's 50 more gigs, Momo. Just kidding.
Oh my god, no!
I'm trying to scare Momo. She has limited hard drive space. What did you say? It's a small one or a big one?
It's a really quick one, so it's kind of.
Oh, it's a quick update.
It
Okay.
says play,
Yeah.
So maybe it updated in the background.
So it's gonna say play, but once you hit play and then hit start, it's gonna download.
But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for lurking. I appreciate you guys. Say bye, Lady Rain. Bye, Momo.
Thank you, Mono.
Bye, chat. Bye, everyone. Oh, God. That scared me to death. Bye, Iron Vulture. Bye, Squid. Bye, WC. Lemon Drop. Everybody that's lurking and listening. Turtle, JJ, everybody that came in. Have a good night. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night if you're on. So, I'll catch you there. Oh, thank you so much, Squid. Thank you for that follow. That's awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. All the hearts and loves? Yeah. All the loves. Let's see, what do I have that's love-related emotes? There we go. Send some loves. and then, of course, you know, sleeps. Sheeps. Where is it at? There it is. Cosmo Kitty. With all the sheeps. But, alright guys, good night. That's it. I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye.